ready to begin? Good evening, everyone. This is the regular Pinole Planning Commission meeting of April 28th, 2025, in the Pinole City Council chambers and by Zoom teleconference. You can submit public comments by attending the meeting at the Pinole City Council chambers, 2131 Pear Street, filling out a yellow public comment card and submitting it to city staff, or by Zoom at the hyperlink https://us02web.zom.us/j/865-053-75301, or by entering the webinar ID directly into the Zoom app, 865-053-75301. You can also dial in by phone to 1-669-900-6833 or 1-253-215-8782 or 1-346-248-7799. Speakers will be asked to provide their name and city of residence, although providing this is not required for participation. Each speaker will be afforded up to 5 minutes to speak. Speakers will be muted until their opportunity to provide public comment. When the chair opens the comment period for the item you wish to speak on, please use the raise hand feature or press star 9 if connecting by telephone, which will alert staff that you have a comment to provide, and press star 6 to unmute. To comment with your video enabled, please let staff know you would like to turn your camera on once you are called to speak. Written comments. Please submit public comments to planning staff before the meeting via email to dhanham@pinole.gov. Please include your full name, city of residence, and the agenda item that you are commenting on. Other ways to watch the meeting. Live on Channel 26, where it will be retelecast the following week. You can see the Community TV Channel 26 schedule on the city's website at pinole.gov, or video stream live on the city's website, pinole.gov, and will remain archived on the site for 5 years. If none of these options are available to you or you need assistance with public comment, please contact Planning Manager David Hanham at 510-724-8912 or dhanham@pinole.gov. In compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, if you need special assistance to participate in a city meeting or you need a copy of the agenda or the agenda packet in an appropriate alternative format, please contact the City Clerk's office at 510-724-8928. Notification at least 48 hours prior to the meeting or time when services are needed will assist the city staff in ensuring that reasonable arrangements can be made to provide accessibility to the meeting or service. Note, staff reports are available for inspection on the city website at www.pinole.gov. You may also contact the city clerk via email at hbell@pinole.gov. Persons wishing to speak on an item listed on the agenda may do so when the chair asks for comments in favor of or in opposition to the item under consideration. After all of those persons wishing to speak have done so, the hearing will be closed and the matter will be discussed amongst the commission prior to rendering a decision. Any person may appeal an action of the Planning Commission or the Planning Manager by filing an appeal with the City Clerk in writing within 10 days of such action. Following a public hearing, the City Council may act to confirm, modify, or reverse the action of the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission may act to confirm, modify, or reverse the action of the Planning Manager. The cost to appeal decision is $500 at a minimum $2,500 deposit fee. Note, if you challenge a decision of the Commission regarding a project in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing or in writing delivered to the City of Pinole at or prior to the public hearing. Ralph M. Brown Act, Government Code Section 54950. In enacting this chapter, the legislature finds and declares that public commissions, boards, and councils of the other public agencies of this state exist to aid in the conduct of the people's business. It is the intent of the law that their actions be taken openly and that their deliberations be conducted openly. The people of this state do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. The people, in delegating authority, do not give their public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. The people insist on remaining informed so that they may retain control over the instruments they have created. So I will now call the meeting to order. And if you could please rise to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now for our land acknowledgement. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Ohlone people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Ohlone elders, past, present, and future, who call this place Ohlone land, the land that Pinole sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Ohlone community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. Mr. Adam, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Huey, absent, and she has an excused absence. She notified us earlier this day. Commissioner Utch,
Here.
Commissioner Sandoval,
Present.
Commissioner Lamb Julian,
Present.
Commissioner Binder,
Present.
Vice Chair Martinez,
Present.
Chairman is.
Here.
Let the record show we have 6 planning commissioners present. We can take action on all items tonight.
And as usual, I made my ex parte communication to my email list describing the topics we'll be discussing at this meeting. Next, we have citizens to be heard. The public may address the Planning Commission on items that are within its jurisdiction and not otherwise listed on the agenda. Planning commissioners may discuss the matter brought to their attention, but by state law, the Ralph A. Brown Act, action must be deferred to a future meeting. Time allowed is 5 minutes each. Are there any persons wishing to speak under citizens to be heard?
Yes, there's one person with a hand raised online, a person with the phone number ending in 5748. Caller, when you're ready, please press *6 to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, my name's Anthony, longtime resident, senior citizen of Pinole, over 45 years, taxpayer, homeowner. I just wanted to ask a couple things, or maybe more than a couple in the 5 minutes, that relate to the statements that City Planning Manager Dave Hennem and other city staffers made with regard to the project at the Safeway Tower Hills Center, which may be coming up later in
Anthony,
your
if
meeting.
you have comments related to that item in particular, that's actually agendized for tonight as item J1 under new business.
Okay. I didn't get a chance to see the agenda because I think the city should post the agenda on the Pinole TV station like they do with the city council. With that being said, on a regular basis for the planning commission, you know, they should give you that kind of due diligence, respect that they serve for themselves with the city council. They got the high-paid people that are getting big raises to do that kind of work. So I'm moving on. That was regarding the town hall meeting with that center, whether it's coming or not. Moving on with regard to the scheduling of different programming on Pinole TV and the visuals, a lot of them seem out of date by a few weeks, in some cases maybe up to a few months. And they should have somebody that's getting paid the big bucks, whether it's the city clerk or the assistant to the city manager, to work with somebody like Pinole TV or David Schnell to oversee that and keep everything updated and current. But half of it is not updated and not current, which is a bad look for the city of Pinole. But anyway, moving forward on that, with regard to the land acknowledgement, is that a requirement? Who set that edict out for the city of Pinole having to open the planning commission meeting and the city council meeting with that land acknowledgement? Until further notice, I think they should consider pulling it. Or couldn't you decide and take a vote to pull it? Because the city council had not done their due diligence like they promised the public for over 2 years now to put a name on the Ohlone in Pinole rather than just take the Indian logo off the seal was one of the earlier agendas they wanted to have done. And they've had time to do that with an ad hoc committee with two of the members, Cameron Sasai and Norma Martinez Rubin on the ad hoc committee that have been sitting on it for over a year now, and nothing has been said, brought up, or discussed with regard to picking a location, as I suggested, the trailhead, the trail behind the caretaker's house, to name that the Ohlone Trail, if they can ever get it renovated or cleaned up. Then that was the next question. What is the update on the trail, which Dave Henham said they were going to repair and or renovate, and they've since dumped another load of old road street debris, asphalt and things like that, and off to the side of the trail. So I challenge one of you, if not more than one of you, that has any say with the city council or the staff, if not one of the and go with a manager and walk that trail till the end where it's cut off, and there's a big breach there that Dave Henham said they would fix that too someday when they had leftover dirt from an Appian Way project landslide behind some parking lot, and that hasn't been addressed or repaired either in that regard. And then lastly speaking, have any of you noticed, or did you know that it's some kind of an unwritten policy or protocol for nobody to pay attention with what things are going on? President Donald Trump and the county of Contra Costa County and all other cities have
You have 10
requested that there
seconds.
be a 30-day grief period with the lowering of the flag for the late, great Pope Francis. You know, is this a bipartisan or partisan thing that is, or is it a religious preference that the city of Pinole
Can you please conclude
decided
your
not to lower the
sentence,
flag,
Anthony?
like with the passing of Jimmy Carter for 3 weeks, and then they got it finally figured out in the last week of the 30 days, and it looks like the same thing is going on here, except for Station 74, fire station. They're the only ones that lowered the flag in the city of Pinole. The wastewater treatment plant main office is not lowered. The other flag at the Pinole Police Station firehouse is not lowered, right behind City Hall there.
Noted.
I guess a lot of people don't believe in that, or they just walk around with blinders on. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
No, there are no other hands raised right now.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, we have a person in the audience that if you'd like to come up, you come up to the podium, please, and state your name and what you're here for. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon, Council. My name is Kayla Gomez, and I'm a union representative for NorCal Carpenters Local 152 here in Martinez, which covers Pinole. Our union's core values are simple but powerful. Strong apprenticeship training, real health care for our members, livable wage, and a commitment to local hire. Our statewide apprenticeship program is second to none. It ensures a new generation of carpenters are trained to the highest standards, ready to deliver quality and safety your projects deserve. We also know the importance of taking care of our people who do work. Carpentry is a demanding job, and our members deserve access to health care. Not just for emergencies, but for long-term well-being. Healthy workers mean safer and more productive projects for everyone. And most importantly, hiring union carpenters means creating good, local jobs with a livable wage. Jobs that allow workers to support their families, buy homes, and contribute directly to the local economy. Local hire strengthens communities and makes projects more successful. When you support building with union labor, you're investing in quality construction, a stronger workforce, and a better future for all of us. Thank you for your time and consideration, and thank you for allowing me to comment.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
No one else with a hand raised online.
All right. So with regards to, I don't think we could take any particular action with regards to the land acknowledgement or not, because that, I think, falls under the action element of the Brown Act. But with regards to the flags, do any of the staff know whether the city is lowering flags as sort of a mourning thing for the death of the Pope, or whether that's just for presidents only?
I'm not sure what the policy is for that. So, but I can check and see what it is. But I know it's for presidents. I know it's for like natural disasters or stuff like that. But I'm not quite sure if we have a policy regarding the Pope. So I'd have to check with management staff on that.
Yeah, because I think it would be a good idea just to have clarity about, where the flags are supposed to be in the city. I don't think it's a bad idea to lower the flag or anything. Just want to make sure there's uniformity one way or the other across the various buildings.
Right.
Let's see. And I guess with regards to the status of the trail behind the caretaker's house, you have any updates on that?
The only update I have, I've been trying to reach out, but if residents have an issue regarding the trail or any type of thing back there, they can reach Joe Bingaman, and I can give you his email and his phone number to get an update if needed. So, but the public works he's the public works manager, and he has information regarding the trail and where and what they're doing with that, as well as the dumping of the loads and all that. He would be the person to contact.
All right. And yeah, PCTV stuff is a staff level thing. Do any of my fellow commissioners want to make comments on anything that was raised before we move on to the next item? All right, in that case, we're going to go ahead and move on to the minutes, the Planning Commission meeting minutes for April 14th, 2025. Does anybody have any modifications they wish to make to those minutes? Vice Chair Martinez?
Yes. On page 12 of 33 on the meeting minutes, what I'd like to point out on line 46, it reads the annual review of the CUP, and what I'd like to add after that CUP is by Planning Commission could be considered given the proposed custom body art use and to ensure no loitering may impact those living around the area. So that was my intent, and I did bring that up earlier this week via email to Planning Manager Dave Hannum and Chair Rafael Menes, just to clarify that that was the intent that I was shooting for. Thank you.
So I guess this is a question for staff then. Is it understood that annual review of the CUP would be at the Planning Commission level, or is that ordinarily at staff level?
Normally at staff level, unless there are issues that the Planning Commission need to address, meaning that either they're, most of the time it's like during if there are complaints or if there are different things that are outstanding that need to be done. I can bring them to the Planning Commission. That's not an issue, but normally it's done by staff. But if we do this this would be the only project that we would bring, because it was the only project that was stipulated. And I don't, did we include that, Justin, in the condition that it come back to the Planning Commission every year, or that it?
We haven't updated the condition yet.
Okay, so when we update the commission, if you want this to be reviewed by the Planning Commission, then we'll add that into the condition. But all the other conditional use permits are reviewed by staff at the time of their approval, and if there are any complaints that need to be that get brought up to the Planning Commission, then we bring it up there.
I thank you, Dave. If it's at all possible, if we could, in fact, add that language there, that was my intent. And again, it's just we're talking about two specific properties where there or residential properties that face the area of the entrance to that particular building. And I want to make sure that we're very conscious to make sure that if there's any challenges with it, that we have the ability to adjust if necessary. Thank you.
The only point of potential concern I have about it is we can make the adjustments of the conditions of approval, but was that what was said in the meeting itself? Because that's what the minutes are supposed to reflect.
Well, remember, our minutes are summary. So what we'd have to do is go back through we go back through the meeting. We can have Sherry go back and see what the actual language was said before, and then we'll add the addition accordingly that was approved by the Planning Commission at that meeting.
So do you think we should continue this item until staff can make that review?
Well, either way, the item's already been passed. I mean, the item's already, so there was a condition, an addition to the condition that said that it needed to be reviewed yearly. So that will be automatically, that will be put in because that was based what the Planning Commission ruled on at their last meeting. Regarding intent and regarding, and all that, we'll need to go back to the minutes if it needs to rise to the Planning Commission level, at that point. So, it's not really, you're not really continuing the item. The item has already been approved.
No, I'm talking about the minutes in particular here, not.
Well, you
the
can,
thing that
yeah,
was
I
already
mean,
passed.
I mean, if on that item, what we can do is we can go back and do a verbatim type of, for that item. And then if you want to continue the minutes to the next meeting to approve those and look at those, that's fine. If you just want to approve the minutes, and bring back that particular item as a verbatim item, we could do that as well. I mean, there are a number of different ways, however the commission would want to act on that item.
So Vice Chair Bartiz, you're the one that makes the modification. How would you like to adjust this?
I would propose, well, what I was trying to, because this is the first time we're approving a tattoo studio for that particular section, and as I had shared during our last meeting, what's different about that particular property is it's not one of our traditional strip malls with
Right.
a grocery store and a restaurant and a coffee shop, right? It's completely different. And historically, what has been in there has been dental office, ophthalmologists, that sort of stuff. And my concern during our last meeting was around the area of a loitering, because there's really no area to hang out. And when anybody that's had a tattoo, it's pretty common knowledge that you're in there for 5 hours, 8 hours working on this. And so one would think that you're going to want to have a cigarette or have a need to take a break, if you will. And I just don't know that that property lends itself well to that type of a business. And it may need to be moved to a different location because of the loitering that has the potential to be there. And especially with the way one house faces directly that parking lot and the other house, the side windows for the bedrooms face down at that property. So I just want to be very conscious of that and make sure that if it does become a problem, that we have the ability to review that and adjust it appropriately. Because one would think that if we left that just to staff, that may take away our ability to say we need some adjustments from this particular service provider. So with that said, I guess my intent is that it be brought back annually to us. I know it's a little bit more work for us, and I apologize for that, folks, for us to do, but until we get to know if it's a good fit for that particular location, I would appreciate it. But that's what I was trying to work through last week. Thank you, or last meeting.
Right, so as a statement of intent, that works. As a statement of changing the item, we're not discussing that particular item tonight. We're just discussing the minutes where that item was discussed.
Right.
Just to be clear, like we can bring back the minutes just to make sure that the language of what you said at that meeting accurately reflects what you said as much as possible. But if it turns out that it doesn't reflect that, then we would need to go through a different process to make any actual adjustments to the text.
Okay, so I think if you're asking me if we need to bring it back for a little bit more clarification in the verbatim notes, that might be a good idea then.
All right, so in that case, Mr. Hanna?
Well, yeah, I mean, we need to be careful. We approved a project. You approved the project
Right, that's what I'm
unanimously
trying to be clear
last
about.
meeting. What we're doing is, I want to make sure I understand what you're trying to do. What you're trying to do is just clarify the language of the condition regarding the review. The item can always come back if there are complaints at any time given during even before the year is up, within, let's say, 3 months there are complaints, we can come back to the commission and review the conditional use permit. You have that authority already as part of the municipal code. However, with this particular project, we're adding a condition, or we modified that condition to do that annually. We just need to make sure that if the modification would include to come back to the planning commission every year. If not, then we would modify the language to then what was approved by the commission that night. That's what we've got to do. Meaning that if there was an intent and there was wording in the condition that we didn't catch in the minutes, or we didn't catch as part of the condition, then that's something that we would add because you did make a modification based on the condition. If that's not there, but the modification, the wording that we have in the condition is there, then that's what stands. And moving forward, again, you still have the ability to review conditional use permits. Because they have a different, and I was trying to look it up in the code real quick, but you have the ability to review and approve, or just review and modify conditional use permits. I'm looking for the code right now. So what I recommend right now in terms of the minutes is, if the commission wants, we can bring back the language, we can bring back that item verbatim just to clarify what was said at the meeting that night and what was approved. We can do that at our next meeting. And then, but the minutes, if you want to wait and approve the minutes until we approve that, I don't know how. I mean, you can approve the minutes and still come back and if there's changes to be made or modifications to be made, we can still do that. I mean, so as I've confused everybody, so we have three things. One is that you can approve the minutes as is tonight. 2, you cannot approve the minutes and wait until next meeting, until we've gone through the meeting and gone through that particular item and verify what was actually said in the intent. The third is that you can approve the minutes except for maybe item number, whatever that item is, and that item can come back to be approved at a later meeting. So those are basically your 3 options that you can do.
It sounds like the way to do that would be closest to Vice Chair Martinez's intent would be to approve the minutes except for item number 2, UP 25-003, from page 8 through page 10, basically.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
That would certainly work. Or I guess I would be, if it's easier, Dave, on city staff to just approve the changes as they are, with just understanding or noting that the intent was this. Is that the option to approve the changes as they were?
We have to be very careful with intent, and that's why it's very when we are putting conditions out there and that we need to make sure we need to change the condition to what you want it to say, because if we start getting into intent, then that involves interpretation. At which point we can't, as staff, we don't want to be in a position where we have to interpret the intent of what the commission wanted as part of this condition. So we just want to make sure of 2 things. One, we got what the commission voted on as part of the conditions of approval. And then what we can do on a side note is we'll let the commission know through the code sections of where you have the ability to review a conditional use permit at any time for revocation, for modification, those types of things, so that you have that information. We can do that. because what you said is at the meeting is what you said, and that's what and these minutes that we do are summary, and so which are a little upscale compared to like council just does action minutes, right? So they just do whatever the action was taken. So ours are a little more detailed, but if we want to go more detailed on this particular item, then I would suggest we go to the next meeting and we bring you back what that item, what you said during that item.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Hannum. I guess at this point, as it's going to be reviewed within the next year, I think we'll go ahead and just leave it as is and just approve them, the meeting minutes tonight. And then what I will personally do is maybe in about 10 months from now, I'll send an email to you, Dave, just asking you if we can just review with the various city departments to make sure that if there are any issues, that information is brought forward back to Planning Commission for review. How's that?
Perfect. And just to kind of, as I've just kind of, like I said, Chapter 17-.10 regarding permit time limits, extensions, and expiration outlines the process that you have as part of the Planning Commission to do one of those things. So we'll include that as an email just to let you know what it says in the code. I mean, if you want to look it up, you can, but we'll outline it for you and put it in the memo so that you have that. So
perfect, and thank you, Chair. And again, apologies, folks. This was a bit of a learning curve for me. So at least on a go-forward basis, we'll know a little bit more. If something does require additional detail from us, then we can certainly make sure that it comes back directly to us if someone deems that that's necessary. So I'll take this as a learning experience for me. So Mr. Hannum and Chairperson Menace, thank you for giving me that opportunity to bring that back. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other adjustments that anyone wishes to make to the minutes? Mr. Hannum?
one question. So do you still want me to bring it back, that item back, just for the verbatim, so you can just see what, even if you approve the minutes, we can bring it back and discuss it. And that way I can give you a better idea of what then you can do with the code if you want to do that. Is that something that I just want to make sure?
And I thank you and I appreciate it. Mm-hmm. That won't be necessary, Mr.
Okay.
Hannum. Thank you, though.
Okay.
All right. In that case, I move approval of the minutes for the meeting of April 14th, 2025, as presented in draft form to us tonight. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Can we have a roll call, please, Mr. Hannum?
Commissioner Uch.
Yes.
Commissioner Sandoval.
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb-Julian.
Yes.
Commissioner Bender.
Yes.
Vice Chair Martinez.
Yes.
Chair Menace.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. And I guess technically I should ask, though I don't think it's particularly likely, are there any public comments on this item?
No, there are no comments.
No, I didn't think so. Usually there aren't. I'm the main person that's commenting on council minutes when those come up. All right, so next we come to reorganization of the Planning Commission, selecting the chairperson, vice chairperson, and design review ad hoc committee. So let's see if there's any text linked to that in the various package here.
I think I included a...
Staff report from Mr. Hannum, so take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, tonight, every year, we have what we call the reorganization of the Planning Commission. And with that, we select a chairperson, a vice chairperson, and also we add members to the design review ad hoc committee. Annually in April, the municipal code requires us to do this as part of sections 2.40.030 of the Pinole Municipal Code, which basically says that the commission shall elect a chairperson and a vice chairman from among the appointed members for a term of 1 year, subject to other provisions of law, and may elect may elect such other officers as it may determine. Okay, the ad hoc subcommittee is composed of 3 planning commissioners who meet sporadically to provide input on planning commission related projects on an as needed basis. So normally how we've done this in the past is that I will call for nominations for the chair. I will do that 3 times, and then I will close it, and then you will take a vote on the chair, and then you will take a vote. I'll do the same process for the vice chair, and then at that point, then we'll select the vice chair. Tonight, if you want to move around, I can move you all around. If not, I'll just move the chair. So whoever you don't have to remove your name tags or not, but I'll put the chair in that position, and then you guys will have new positions when you come in at the next meeting. So with that, if you don't have any questions of staff.
I guess before we move on to the actual item, are there any public comments on this item?
No comments on this item.
I didn't think so, but we'll have to follow proper form.
Okay, so at this point, I will take, are there any nominations for the chair for the 25-26 year?
I'll nominate Commissioner Lamb Julian as chair.
I have to ask, Ms. Lamb Julian, are you willing to, if elected or if appointed, would you be willing to serve? Oh, first, wait, before that, are there any other nominations for the chair? Are there any other nominations for the
Depending on
chair?
how the timing of it all works out, I would be willing to continue as chair, or if Ms. Lamb Julian would rather serve as chair, I'd be happy for her to take up the role.
And so with that, if Raphael would be willing, if there's no others that are willing to take it, I would propose that we.
Well, let's first let's just close the nomination first. So as of now, we've chosen Ms. Lamb Julian and Mr. Menes as now. I have to ask if that's all, then I'll close the nominations. Or anybody else that wants to be nominated for chair of the Planning Commission?
If Commissioner Lamb Julian rejects the nomination, I'll nominate myself as chair.
Okay. All right. So we have 3 nominations for chair. We have Commissioner Lamb Julian, Commissioner Sandoval, and Chairman Menes. So with that, are there any other nominations for chair? Seeing none, I'm going to close the nomination. So I will ask each nominee if they would like to be the chair. And since Ms. Lamb Julian was nominated first, I will ask her first. Ms. Lamb Julian, are you willing to take the chair?
At this time, I respectfully decline taking the chair. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Menes, if nominated and if approved, would you be willing to be the chairman of the Planning Commission?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Sandoval, if you are appointed, are you willing to take the chair as?
Yes.
Okay. Since we have 2 nominations, we need to have a vote of which member. So I will call for a vote for Commissioner Menes for a chairperson. So if I can do a roll call vote, or I can, if you all are ready.
Before we do a roll call vote, do we have any discussion, or does it just go straight to the vote?
Actually, well, unless you want to withdraw your nomination, then yes. But if there are any like general discussion of that, then no.
Okay. I had some comments as to why I was putting my nomination back forward, but you're saying that would be out of order?
Yes, I'd be out of order this time.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, I'm going to call for the vote for Commissioner, for you're basically saying yes or no for the chairman for Commissioner Menes. Commissioner Uch?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Bender?
No.
Commissioner Lamb Julian?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez? Vice Chair Martinez, sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner Sandoval?
No.
And Commissioner Menes?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 4 noes and 2 yeses, so that motion dies. So now we will vote for Mr. Sandoval. We have to take the formal vote. So start again. Commissioner Uch,
Yes.
Commissioner Bender,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb Julian,
No.
Commissioner Vice Chair Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Menes, your chairperson Menes,
Yes.
and Commissioner Sandoval.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 4-2 to make Mr. Sandoval the chair for the 25-26 year, right, Justin? Is that the right year? For the 25-26. Okay, so now we've got the chair. At this point, now that we have a new chairman, I will do the selection for the vice chair. I'll do the not say anything for the vice chair, and at which point we'll move forward from that point. So I will open up the nominations for vice chair.
If Commissioner Lamb Julia would accept, I would like to nominate her for vice chair.
Any other nominations for vice chair?
I would like to nominate Chairperson Manis.
Okay. Any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, I will close the nominations for vice chair. We will proceed to a vote for the first candidate, Ms. Lamb Julian. So, Commissioner Uch,
Yes.
I believe, Mr. Hannum, you should ask if the candidate is willing to accept.
oh, that's right. I'm sorry. My fault. Or, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. I apologize. Miss Lamb Julian, are you, if appointed, would you be willing to accept the position of vice chair?
I'd have to respectfully decline. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Menes, if you were to be nominated as vice chair, would you be able to serve as vice chair?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. We still have to vote on the issue. So for those, so starting with the vote again for vice chair, for Commissioner Menes, Commissioner Uch,
Yes.
Commissioner Bender,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandoval,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb Julian,
Yes.
Chair Commissioner Martinez,
Yes.
and Commissioner Menes.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries 6-0. So we now have, for the 25-26 year, we have Mr. Gabe Sandoval as the chairman and Mr. Rafael Menes as the vice chairman. So at this point, I will turn it over to the chair because this is the ad hoc committee, and this is an item that is to be selected by the commissioners. So with that, I turn it over to the new chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hannum.
Here, let me go ahead and bring you the gavel.
Do you want to switch around? Do you just want to switch seats?
That might be simpler, actually.
that's
Or I
okay.
could just shift over to where Tamiko's seat is, because that would be easiest in terms of moving.
there you go.
Okay, yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, go ahead. There you go. Yeah, that was good, man. That would take me 20 minutes to do that.
It's a completely different view from over here. Not at the little corner anymore.
Yeah.
So where were we? So with the selection of the ad hoc committee, Mr. Hannum, can we please be reminded of who is on the ad hoc committee at the moment?
Currently, Commissioner Bender, Commissioner Menes, and Commissioner Uch are the current members of the ad hoc committee.
At this time, is anyone who is currently on the ad hoc committee want to step down?
No.
No.
Is there anybody that wants to be on the ad hoc committee? No. So then it looks like in this case, we'll move forward with a motion. Before that, is there any public comment on this item?
No comment.
Thank you. So I'd like to make a motion reappointing Commissioners Uch, Bender, and Menace to the ad hoc committee.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Commissioner Uch,
Yes.
Commissioner Bender,
Yes.
Commissioner Menes,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb Julian.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. I don't have to remember chair and vice chair now.
Before we move on from this item, Chair, can I have a brief moment to comment?
Yeah, of course. Go for it.
Thanks. So the reason why I ran for re-election as chair rather than as vice chair was simply to maintain sort of order of transition rather than having somebody jump directly from commissioner to chair. Ordinarily will be commissioner, vice chair, chair. But I'm sure you'll do a good job as chair. I've got no hard feelings or anything like that. Just explaining why I bothered going for a second time around as chair. So wanted to be clear.
No worries. I understand. So now we can move on to our next item, and that would be, let's see, going through our agenda, that would be item H1, our public hearing. It's my first time doing this, so then I'll just read out the...
Just read the agenda item, and then you
Yep.
can just ask for the staff report.
All right, so this is the item H1, the Planning Commission report for Diosis Restaurant, UP 25001. And Mr. Hannum, can we please have a staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tonight before you, you have a item for the Diosa restaurant that is looking to locate at 2361 San Pablo Avenue, which is in the old bank. Dave, do I have a slide? Were you able to? There we go. It's hard to see. It looked great on the computer screen, a little small there. But anyway, of course, the Diosa restaurant is looking to locate in the old Pinole Bank building. As you're aware, that building's had a number of different uses since the bank has closed. It was owned by the city at one time, but now it's owned by a private ownership. And so this group, pronounced, and I'm going to blow the pronunciation. I apologize. It's Herredes, and then as the Diosa restaurant, they are requesting a conditional use permit for the ability to sell alcohol. They want a Type 47 on-site premise license that allows them to sell beer, wine, and spirits. They, as part of this project, also need to apply for public convenience necessity, which they did, and it went to the council at their April 6th meeting and was approved to do that. So after that approval, now it comes back to you for approval for the conditional use permit. The Diosa restaurant is a concept that brings farm-to-table experience to the Pinole community by working with local farmers and sourcing ingredients locally. The restaurant is specialized in infusion style cooking based on local produce and meats. On occasion, the Diosa restaurant will host community events featuring presenters, artists, and musicians. They want to include both patios, which will offer dining with alcoholic beverages permitted in the designated areas. The project has, if you go to the next slide, Dave, the project has a general plan designation of Old Town sub-area within the San Pablo corridor and has a zoning of CMU, commercial mixed use. So basically, in terms of the review and the analysis portion, the restaurant, or the Veronica Rivera, the owner of the Diosa restaurant, applied for a conditional use permit for public convenience and necessity for the location at 2361 San Pablo Avenue. The project site is located on a 2,500 square foot lot located on the south side of San Pablo Avenue between Tennant Avenue and Fernandez Avenue. The existing land uses to the north of the project site are commercial businesses. The existing land use to the south is a public parking lot serving all the businesses within the downtown. It's a public parking lot. The existing use to the east of the project site is a commercial business, and more commercial uses to the west of the building. So it's right in the middle of our urban core, mostly with businesses there. As part of the alcohol as part of the alcohol permit, Chapter 17.59 of the municipal code governs alcohols selling within the community. They've applied, as stated before, they've applied for a Type 47 on-site beer, wine, and spirits through the ABC. Because of, and of course, because of that, that's what requires them to do a conditional use permit. When a business establishment applies for a new or different on-site sales license, ABC determines if there's an undue concentration of licenses in a particular census tract. The state relies on a ratio of on-sale retail licenses to population in the census tract, determine an area of overconcentrated. In this case, ABC considers an undue concentration of over concentration to be presented if there are more than 5 on-sale site type 41s or 47 licenses within the census tract of 3591.03. So staff went on, as you see in table 1, all of the businesses within the local area of census tracts 3591.03 as of May 22nd. Currently, including the East Bay Coffee Company, who just got theirs probably about 2 or 3 years ago. They were the last one to do that in that area, and that changed the license, So that brings the number to 10 and in census tract. So, and I've listed all the businesses, the bowling lanes. As you can see, the census tract is pretty big. In general, census tracts are fairly large. So you can see we've got businesses all the way down in Pinole Valley Lanes, down by, or Pinole Valley Avenue, Pinole Valley Road. And then also we've got all of the restaurants that are right around the 2361 San Pablo site. The general plan consistency is part of the goal LU7, the land use and economic development element, calls for balancing housing and employment opportunities. You've seen this goal in a number of different items that we use. Again, it's to provide this goal wants us to provide revenues for public services. Our use permit is consistent with this goal in that the restaurant provides convenient commercial services and cultural events and encourages a variety of social and convenient commercial services and cultural events. Also with entertainment activities that attract visitors throughout the day of each week. The business currently provides the local employment opportunities, and the addition of beer, wine, and actually spirits will provide additional beverage options for Pinole residents and visitors to the Old Town area and would help support the viability of this existing, even though it's not, I wouldn't say it's a new business, but it's this existing building, and we need to fill this one up. This use would allow for more businesses to be had. The request is also consistent with the general plan goals and policies below. As part of our goal, we used LU.8. Land use element economic development calls for concentrating on commercial development and mixed-use activity areas within the major city transportation corridors, including San Pablo Avenue. We use community character goal. CC3 calls for cities to support the development and retention of locally oriented services in the Old Town Pinole and other commercial areas, and encourage the support of the local community. And also, as part of our community character policy, CC.31 calls for the city to encourage a combination of retail, office, public spaces, and entertainment uses in Old Town Pinole that serves the daily, occasional need of the residents and employees that make Old Town Pinole economically viable. So with some of the activities that Dios, the restaurant, is proposing, it would definitely be consistent with that community character policy goal. As part of our specific plan consistency, the project site is within our Old Town area in the San Pablo Avenue corridor. The request is consistent with several applicable economic development objectives, which is to retain and support existing businesses, to bring more and higher density housing and commercial uses to the priority development areas, and to make Old Town a more vibrant commercial center. The proposed project would provide beer and wine as well as spirits to complement meals and live entertainment in conjunction with this anchor business, which attracts a wide array of residents and visitors to the Old Town area. The inviting restaurant will provide a location where customers can socialize, eat, and enjoy local musicians and performers. The availability of beer, wine, and spirits is proposed to address customer demand and help support an expanded menu. The music and live entertainment have added interest to the Old Town commercial area and attracts people to seeking entertainment opportunities as well as food, beverage choices, and business services within the Old Town. So basically, with that, we are required to do a number of findings, which are required by 17.59030. We've listed the findings below, and I mean I can go through each of the findings and how staff determined that this finding was met. Or if you have any questions of those, I'll be happy to answer any of those, as well as the conditions of approval. So if you have any questions of the findings, I can take those now, or if you want me to just go through them all, I can go through them all. Your choice on this particular item. I mean, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2504 approving an on-sale liquor license for an on-sale Type 47 liquor license for the Diosa restaurant being proposed at 2361 San Pablo Avenue with the supported conditions of approval. So with that, if you have any questions of staff, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond, for the presentation. Now with questions for staff from the commission, starting to, let's do my right side this time. Commissioner Bender, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have several. I'm just curious, what are the ABC requirements with regards to the alcohol beverage consumption in outdoor areas?
Well, they require the conditional use permit. They can't, I mean, in most cases, the drinks can't be transferred. Like you can't take it from indoor to outdoor. However, you can sit outdoor, you can order, they can bring it out to, the staff can bring it out to you. That's really the main issue with ABC regarding the outdoor, as long as they're just not walking in and around with the alcohol. It has to be served to you at your table.
I mean, does the ABC then doesn't have any sort of fencing requirements or anything like that? I'm just curious.
Not really. No, they don't really. But in this case, they have an existing patio right now that has the bank has an existing patio on both sides actually. They own where Pear Street Bistro had their tables and chairs. Most of that area is actually owned by the bank. So they have their patios are pretty much contained as long as they're up along the building and that. Similar to if you had an outdoor dining situation across without the fencing doesn't necessarily need to be there. That's only a requirement the city wants to make sure there's separation between sidewalk and the where they serve the alcohol.
Okay. And then I have some questions on the conditional use permit. On page 27 of 33, item number 2, it just says the proposed use shall be operated in a manner consistent with the statement of operations dated 03/01/2023.
Yeah, the date should be changed. They gave us an operational statement as part of their that date should be when they applied for the permit. So in the staff report, it was February 19th. That date should be changed. To February 19th.
And then on the following page, it was item number 11. At the very end of that, there's the letter I, and then there's nothing after that.
Oh, that I should be stricken. That was just a loss of the fingers. Okay.
And Chair, that was it for my questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Utch.
No questions at the moment.
Commissioner Lanjulian.
Yes. So the bank is on the National Register for Historic Places.
Mm-hmm.
So does that put specifications on if they're going to be remodeling inside of how to do it differently?
No, most of the historic stuff is all on the outside of the building, and they're not proposing any modifications to the outside of the building.
Okay.
If they did, then those would have to since we don't have a historical review committee, they would have to come back to the planning commission if they were going to do any type of modification to the outdoors.
To the full commission or to the ad hoc?
Well, we'd probably take it to the ad hoc, and then it would go to, and then if they wanted, based on that ruling, whether it go to the planning commission or back to staff.
Okay. So page 28 of 33, condition number 12, regarding noise.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have, or does staff have a matrix of just how many complaints? Is it just going through noise complaints?
Pretty much. We don't have a threshold of like total number of complaints. However, once we do get a complaint, then what we do is we refer to PD to monitor and to make sure, you know, that they're operating in a kind manner in terms of noise.
Okay. And then page 29, 14 and 21, what is the difference between complaint response, community relations with the police department?
And applicant shall maintain a complaint or similar method to ensure cooperation. Oh, okay. One is just, okay. One's a little more detailed than the other, meaning 21, basically, they shall establish and maintain a complaint responsibility relations program. The chapter 14 or condition 14 is just to maintain a community and community relations so that so they're always in constant contact with PD in that case. Whereas 21 is actually they need to have an actual program with PD to be able to make sure that there's similar methods for cooperation.
Okay, so does the PD have a program now? So then it's just consistent with all businesses?
They use. I don't know the particular program that they actually put together. I don't know what that actual program is. However, they do have things that they work with the businesses on. Once they get approved for liquor licenses, then the business will then go to PD, and then the PD will help them establish all those programs that they, such as the establish, maintain, and complaint and response community, as well as maintain that relationship.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So 16 and 17, my question is, they're open Sunday through Monday, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's a farmer's market on Saturday, and then there is Uptown Yard as well.
Mm-hmm.
Of just knowing that there's going to be increased foot traffic there. So I just remember from other conditional uses, we use the language of regularly checking the trash or litter and what have you.
Yes. You, in most cases.
The shell.
What's that?
Winanabe, the shell, that language that we put in there.
Right, and that's because, well, the uses are a little different. I mean, you're not going to have, in terms of trash and all that from the restaurant, it's all going to be plates and spoons and forks. You're not going to have, like, the paper wrappers. You're not going to have, you know, that type of, quote, litter. Mm-hmm. However, they could have where they dump, you know, food in their trash or in their trash receptacles that they have, like, kind of on the back of the property where Uptown Yard is. Mm-hmm. They all share that. So it's mostly in consideration with that. So the trash and litter, they have to maintain and make it kept up. But it's a little different than a Nabi because they're more, you know, they've got candy bar. They have all prepackaged. They got a lot of prepackaged stuff that people just tear open and throw out. Mm-hmm. Whereas a restaurant, it's not going to have that same type of trash. The same trash is going to be from the actual restaurant to the trash so they've got to maintain that, and they need to keep that under control.
Because just what I'm seeing is just the little gate that they have around the outdoor patio is really low. Mm-hmm. So just people traversing from rather Uptown Yard, from their farmer's market, or even through church to cut through that little alleyway.
Right.
That they're just going to start stuffing it. Just like I know that they've done it over at Uptown Yard as well. Just when it's that peak time, people are just stuffing trash.
Right.
And then it just kind of,
Well, I mean, they'll have to maintain, I mean, if we could add that condition back in, but I mean, the restaurant would have to, as part of their property cleanliness and all that, have to keep it up and maintain it and do all that. So, and they'd have to maintain the landscaping that's within the area as well, so.
okay, page 30, 24 and 26. So make attempts versus shall, no, I take back 26 because you clarified that up, but 24, making attempts so then that they should have implement some policy about limiting people's consumption or responsible consumption.
It's 26, are you looking at 26 or 24?
I take back 26, we're looking at 24.
Okay, so make attempts to limit alcohol-related problems that negatively impact those living on or working in the neighborhood. Right. So basically, what we're saying is that you need to watch your patrons. So if your patrons are starting to get out of control, you need to control your patrons and make sure that they either get to their car safely or get to their Uber or whatever. That it's going to be up to you to be able to do that. So if there are complaints of people that are negatively impacting those people, then we'll go back onto them, and that will be part of the process. Because again, this is a conditional use permit. You have the ability to review that conditional use permit. So that would come back to you if we're getting more and more complaints of drunks running around the neighborhood type of thing.
Okay, last one, page 31, number 31. Is that the right time to where they're ending later on a weekday and earlier on a weekend?
This condition I added as part of, this was kind of like Uptown Yard. And basically, not all amplified music shall be inside. I mean, all amplified music shall be inside, which that is consistent with all the other restaurants that we have. All outdoor music will be acoustic and will end by 8 p.m. during the weekdays and 5 p.m. during the weekends. 8 p.m. is 2 hours before they close, and it's kind of more of the nighttime hours, so we're kind of shutting it down a little bit before they close, both on the weekdays and the weekends. So the weekends they close at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. We're closing it down at 5 because normally on a Sunday at 5 p.m., people's going to need to start getting ready for work the next day. So we're trying to cut down that noise, that factor then.
Okay, I am complete. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Martinez?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Hannum, I guess I appreciate receiving the information, and thank you, city staff, for preparing the information for us. I guess the angle that I'm going to come at when I look at the materials that we received is I know absolutely nothing about this company, and it makes me a little bit on the nervous side for this organization. And I say that with all due respect, because I do want to see us with a very lively downtown. But Dioso restaurant, when I Googled it, nothing came up. So while I want to see our downtown thrive, and I do, from a business development perspective, it's what I've worked my whole career promoting these types of organizations. But the difference here is that when I look at Bear Claw approaching City Council and Planning Commission for approval to have beer and wine and then spirits, it was a stepped up approach. And we knew the organization, as an example. The second one being East Bay Coffee, started with beer and wine, had that for a while, and then they stepped it up to spirits. These were established organizations in our city that we knew the owners, we knew the clients. So it kind of gave us that comfort level of these are responsible businesses. But there's nothing in here that tells us anything about who is this company? Do they have other restaurants? Do they not? Is this their first chance at this? And so I'm just a little bit nervous approving and I respect the fact that council's already approved it because it's in the documents, but there's nothing here to give me context of who they are and how they're going straight in from selling no alcohol that I don't know anything about this organization to asking us to give them the full license, the license 47. So it just makes me nervous. So I'll be very specific this time in my request. I do want us to be able to review this license 1 year, that it must come back to Planning Commission for review. The other thing, the question I have for city staff is there any way for us to step this down and say, can we start with beer and wine only, test them out for a year, see how they integrate into our community, and if they do a great job and we don't have any issues, then we can add the full 47 license?
No.
So these are just some of the questions that are going on in my head. At least at this point, because when we look at page 21 of 33, item number 1, it's that list of establishments within a 1,000-foot radius. We've got Tina's right across the street. We've got Bear Claw. We've got Bistro. We've got Antlers, all within, and they're all the full 47 license, every single one of them. So we're adding yet another one within like 10, 20 feet of each other. So again, I'm excited about the business, but I know nothing of this organization that makes me say they have a great track record, they've done this before, they've proven themselves to be good city partners. So if you have any information to help me understand who they are and how this is occurring, that would be really appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, so regarding the licensing, they can apply for any type of license. We don't have control over that. That's something that they do with ABC. Once they apply for the license, then we go through our city processes. So there's no stepping up we can't require them to do a type 47 or type, with just beer and wine, and then they can come back for spirits. That's not how that works. They can apply straight for it. The other thing is that the owner, from what I understand, and I'm looking some things up right now. The owner, this is a new concept. It's a new concept, especially the farm to table. So it's a new concept of restaurant that they're trying to propose here. And you have to remember, some of these businesses that came to Pinole didn't have a name, and they've been here for 20 years. And so I don't think we should penalize them just because they're new and they're not established as a restaurant here. I do like the idea of adding the condition for the 1 year review. We can definitely put that in there in case there are issues that need to arise. So that's the concept. That's why you don't really see them around anywhere, because it's a new concept that they're trying to establish as a new. They have local people that they use for the different, for their different products. And so and they are bringing more. They're already bringing in more of the quote the entertainment experience, which really none of our restaurants do. I mean, even though East Bay Coffee has the ability, they haven't done it. Antlers, they have music at night now and again. Tina's is open rarely at night. They have minimal operational times. So they wanted to bring a more full scale restaurant with entertainment out of the get-go. And so that's why that's kind of who they are and what they're doing. But they don't have like restaurants all over the East Bay or all over the Bay Area. This is a new concept. They like Pinole. They like what Pinole brings. They like the atmosphere of the downtown. They like the synergy of East Bay Coffee and Pear Street Bistro right next. I mean, Veronica knows Francisco very well. I mean, they know each other very well in different areas. So that's why they wanted to come to Pinole. So those are the things that I know. So, but yeah, regarding the licensing, that's an ABC thing. That's a direct ABC thing, not a city thing. But we can add the condition. We can state there that they shall. Justin, you might make a note of that they shall within 1 year come back to the Planning Commission to make sure that they're reviewing all their policies and they have all their stuff.
Thank you. And Justin, I guess I would further add that it's every year for the first 5 years. And then Planning Commission at that point can decide if it's necessary. Because again, I don't have any context. I have no references. I have nothing to go on to show that they've got experience in managing a business and managing the people that could potentially attend it, which is probably going to be me and everybody here, right? But I just want to make sure that we do everything possible to ensure the safety and the tranquility of the area, but also bringing some vibrant activity to the neighborhood. And so those would be the comments that I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, and Vice Chair Menace.
Thank you, Chair Sandoval. So I guess first off, I know before I'm making any judgments about the applicant, I'd like to at least hear from them and their part of the presentation as part of the public hearing process. They haven't had a chance to speak for themselves yet. And I've got a few comments on the conditions of approval. So first up, on page number 27 of 33, condition number 2, Mr. Ham, you noted that it was 2/19, but I didn't know what year you were referring to for the statement of operations.
2025.
25, okay. And then secondly, I'm going to echo Commissioner Lamb-Julian a bit. It seems like there's a fair number of the conditions in here that are duplicative. Like, for example, you've got condition number 4, there shall be no sale of alcohol for off-site consumption. And then condition number 15, no sale of alcohol is allowed for off-site consumption.
Okay.
And stuff like that. Condition number 7, all staff receive responsible beverage service training. And looks like that one isn't duplicated, actually. Oh, yeah, condition number 23 is also somewhat of a duplicate, though it expands a bit more on it than number 7 does. So basically, is there some way we could deduplicate some of the items? Because it seems like there's overlap.
What I would recommend if they're the duplicates, I would take the more keep the more stringent condition, so that way we're making sure that we're covered. So in this case, you would want to delete, 7. Yeah, delete 7.
Okay. And then with condition 4 and condition 15 basically being duplicative, is that because one of them doesn't have police involved in it, the other one does?
4.
So on page number 29.
Yeah, we'll be getting rid of condition number 16. We'll be removing condition 15.
Condition 15, okay. And then more broadly, I guess, stepping away from conditions for a moment to discussing the site. I went by and did a site visit before tonight's meeting. Mm-hmm. I noticed that one of the areas we're discussing is definitely fenced off next to the bank building. It's clearly a part of the bank's area of influence. But you said basically the other patio that's over by Pear Street Bistro and that Pear Street Bistro is currently using would also be part of this application, correct?
Yeah, but Pear Street will have to remove the way the property sits. The Pear Street, whatever Pear Street has, would have to be removed, and then DIOSA would then be able to take over that portion, because the Pear Street only has out the distance between the two businesses, which I think is like 15 feet, I think it's 10 or 15 feet. Pear Street only has like 3 feet. The rest of it, 3 or 4 feet. The rest of it is owned by DIOSA. So,
okay, so they've basically just been permitted to use it while DIOSA didn't have a use for it.
Yes.
Okay, wanted to get that cleared up. So then, condition number 11, Commissioner Bender already identified the typographical issue, but I've got a somewhat broader concern there. It says the operating hours of DIOSA restaurant shall be Monday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Should be Monday through Sunday.
Okay, so that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yes, all 7 days.
Got it. Wanted to get that cleared up because other commissioners also brought up potential conflict with Uptown Yard. So if it's open all 7 days, that's going to be a factor.
Yeah.
It seems like condition number 12 might be the one that's the most easy to modify to meet Commissioner Martinez's request for a review point.
That's what we were going to do. We were going to modify condition 12.
Okay, so condition number 25 says that they'll be required to install security cameras that capture the interior and the exterior of the establishment, including any entry-exit points. That seems like it would require physical modifications to the building itself.
Most of the cameras will be not necessarily on the building, but they will be able to see the building. So they're going to have to put them potentially on a pole or something like that. They're not going to be able to put them actually on the building. At least that's the one thing we are, because the police department wanted that condition on there. We told them that it was a historic building. So we're going to have to take a look at because we use the Department of Interior modification of a historic building. So we'll take a look at that. If not, they will be on a pole, or the cameras will be located on something that's next to the building, not necessarily connected to the building.
Would it be possible to modify the condition to state that more explicitly? Because I know there's probably some people in the Historic Society and elsewhere that would have concerns about modifications to that building. Just say something like, install security cameras, et cetera, and then add a sentence at the end that says, following the necessary guidelines for historic buildings as covered wherever that is in the various codes and so on and so forth, just so it's explicitly called out in that condition.
Okay, so just so I understand, so we'll keep the condition after the word establishment. We will say in accordance with I'll just put the Department of Interior thing for historic design.
Yeah, Secretary of the Interior Standards.
Yeah.
Right, whatever the relevant standards are, just making sure that's explicitly called out since it's a historic building. Let's see, condition number 27 talks about wine alcohol content, and condition number 28 talks about kegs and of beer and kegs of wine.
Right.
I don't see anything particularly discussing spirits unless ports and cherries fall in that category. Is there supposed to be a separate condition for spirits, or is that just sort of?
No, those are just standard
normalized?
conditions that we've had in terms of for the beer and the wine.
Okay. Just seems a little bit odd that we're permitting the sale of spirits, but we're putting conditions on alcohol content for wines in particular. But if they're standard conditions, they're standard conditions.
Well, that's because mostly we're not quite sure the percentage of the alcohol in wine, whereas the spirits they have the proof, whether it's 80 proof, 100 proof. So there is a measurement of alcohol within the spirits. So that's why that's not included.
All right. And then on condition number 31, it seems like 5 p.m. during the weekends is pretty strict, frankly, on Saturday or even on Sunday. Like, usually, I don't think residential uses are wrapping up, well before sundown on a Sunday,
Well, I mean, that was basically a judgment call from staff, basically knowing how music amplifies in the downtown and looking at the residents from Rafaela. And even though, it doesn't seem like it because the parking lot's right there, but there are residents that are pretty adjacent. So if you want to extend it, that's up to the commission. I wouldn't recommend extending it much longer than that, only because, or what you could do is, you can always single out in terms of, on Saturdays you can go till 8 or 9 p.m. and then Sundays just wrap it up by 6 or 7. I mean, you have the ability to change that however you wish it to be.
Right, because, you don't want to cause a disturbance to the residents living over the building, over the parking lot nearby. I understand that, but at the same time, 5 p.m. seems
Right.
early.
But I would caution the commission that all amplified music needs to be inside.
Yes, that's clear.
Okay.
Which is another reason why I'm a little bit uncertain about this, because if it was amplified music, I could definitely see why that would need to cut off at 5 sharp, but acoustic, less so. Let's see, any other questions? So in the staff report on page 20, you mentioned that 1580 Pinole Valley, it should be road rather than lanes. Is that going to be an
Yeah.
issue, or because it's in the staff report, it doesn't actually matter?
No, we'll change it in the staff report, but it's not, that's just a typographical way. And I was thinking bowling alley lanes and instead of putting Pinole Valley Road.
Let's see. Findings. Right, so finding number 4, the proximity of the applicant to school, park, playground, recreational center, daycare, or similar use. What's the standard sort of cutoff point for that consideration? 500 feet, 1,000 feet?
There's really no standard. The code just requires you to identify. So we are just identifying. There's really no that you can't have it if it's within 500 feet, but the code does require the identification of areas within 1,000 feet. So that's why we include it for your information that these areas are within 1,000 feet or within 500 feet of the new establishment.
Right, I mean, it's separated by, pretty wide street from most of those uses, so
Yeah.
that's not a huge issue in terms of raw proximity, but just want to double check on that.
But like, for example, like on the other side of the street, the liquor store is only probably less than 150 feet to the park. So, I mean, that's just in the Pinole Plaza. There's a couple areas that serve alcohol in that area, and the park's just right there. So again, it's more to identify to the commission what sensitive areas are located within those 1,000 feet.
Okay, and then finally on pages sort of 22 and 23, the finding for outdoor dining, in particular finding 1A, the encroachment. I know that on the west of the property, it's got clear access from the restaurant and it's clearly separated off from everything else. On the east side, it's not as clearly divided. It seems like stuff could pretty easily spill into the pathway between the building and the sort of square area where Pear Street Bistro currently has tables.
Well, there is a door on the side, on the east side between the bistro. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's mid-level. It's probably a little bit on the back side. I don't know if it's an emergency exit or if it's just an exit from where the back area of the building is. So they could come through there. If not, they either can come from the back. They'll probably come out of the back, but I think there's a door. I can't get the little man in there for Google, but when I looked over there, when I took a site visit, I thought I saw a door. If you're walking towards from San Pablo to the parking lot, there's a door on the right-hand side, probably about 3/4 of the way up, that they could use to come in and out of as far from the kitchen to bring things out. So they're not coming out of the front door, walking all the way around, or the back door all the way around. There's a door out there.
No, I don't think that's what this particular finding is checking. It's whether or not pedestrians and wheelchairs are going to be able to move through that path.
Well, the space alone is already, it's technically it's not a public right of way through there. However, there is enough room, though they're going to have to maintain at least a 36-inch gap between their tables and the table. If Pear Street Bistro were to put tables right up against their, because that's the only place Pear Street could actually put outdoor dining is right up against their wall. So they would have to maintain a 3-foot path through there as part of the project.
Okay.
That's a federal law. That's something that they have to do.
I just wanted to double check and follow up on that because that finding seemed to be focusing more on the west of the building and not on the east.
Yeah.
And it seems like the east would be the area where there'd be more likely to be potential issues.
Yeah, on the west side, that has been considered like a public walkway. So that on that side of the building between the bank and Uptown Yard, that's more of a public. Where actually there is no private area. There is no public area between the two restaurants. It's just the property line. So they would have to maintain. That's why I didn't really comment on the east, because it's just the two properties bumped up against each other. However, if they were to use outdoor dining on that side, they would have to maintain a 3-foot pathway so they can get clients in through that area.
Got it. Okay, thanks for clearing that up. And that's all my questions at this point.
Okay.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I also did want to echo, most of my questions have been answered already, but I did kind of want to echo Vice Chair Menace and Commissioner Lam Julian on condition 31. I kind of do think it's a little bit, it almost felt like the times were back flipped. Because, if I'm, kind of like wrapping up your music on a Saturday night at 5 o'clock does seem a little early. So I would be open to kind of extending that to also 8 o'clock for Saturdays. I can definitely understand a Sunday though.
Okay.
But if the commission also wants to approve it, if the commission also wants to amend it so it's 8 o'clock at all times or 7 o'clock, I'm also open to that as well.
Okay.
And if any more questions or comments for staff? With that, let's go ahead and open our public hearing. At this time, would the applicant like to give a presentation?
Is she online?
There are people online. I don't know if the applicant is online, though.
Okay, if Veronica or a member of the Diosa restaurant, can you raise your hand to show that if you are a part of the, I know she was going to have trouble getting here tonight. So if if you're online and you are part of the Diosa restaurant, then you raise your hand so that we can identify you as the applicant. Are they hearing me?
I don't see anyone yet. I see another hand raised from the public, but not from, yeah.
Well, can we ask who that person is?
Oh, it's Anthony.
Oh, it's Anthony. Okay. All right. Okay. And then there are other people that are on there,
Yeah, there are other people too.
but they're not raising their hands. Okay. All right. Then the applicant I know she was going to have issues getting here and so you can still open the public hearing and let's take public comment.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Are there any comments in support of this item?
I can't tell if it's in
Please.
support or not, but
Okay.
they're the only person with their hand raised right now.
Okay, if we can have that person comment, please.
Okay, great. When you're ready, please press *6 to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on the trash situation regarding those 2 or 3 or potentially 4 properties, businesses, the new restaurant, proposed restaurant, the Uptown Yard, and I guess it would be Pear Street Bistro. Right now, the trash situation, I know more or less, talking to several people, has been somewhat of an issue, and especially with the Saturday market, that's the 4th or 5th player, okay? And the word is, after talking to a few people that know more than me, and maybe just as much as half of you, is that there was at one time or another, or still is, an existing trash problem with some kind of a informal or formal easement that Uptown Yard had to agree to or take upon themselves, and or 1 or 2 of the other adjoining properties and or the Saturday market people, with who gets to share and use what trash bin. The small one behind Uptown Yard, which is enclosed, that only has a small amount of cans, as well as, or the big dumpster one across from Kings Valley that's used by Pear Street Bistro and pretty much all of the Saturday market people. So that may be a problem for 2 or 3 of the property owners, especially going into a heavy weekend, be it Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday and Monday with regard to the trash pickup. And if you can clarify what the easement problem was with, I believe, Uptown Yard and the city of Pinole. Okay, and it goes back a while, so there's a history there, and I think people should know about it before making any decisions along those lines, as well as in addition to the entertainment and music situation, I would grant them the same, pretty much the same hours that you grant Pear Street Bistro and East Bay Coffee, which are even closer to a residential section than they are. If not, also add in what restrictions are you placing on the Antlers, because they have heavy live music 2 or 3 times a week with open mics on Tuesday at Antlers, and sometimes they have the doors open, and you can hear it, anywhere from half a block to a block away. And there are people living in Park Street, building tenants right across the street from Antlers, right behind Tina's. So let's not take Antlers out of the picture with regard to the extension of privileges you're granting the Antlers folks, whether you're grandfathering them in or not, to give this person an opportunity at the new restaurant, the ability to succeed in his business moving forward. Because I know Antlers has music 3 or 4 times a week: Tuesday, sometimes Thursdays, Friday nights, Saturday nights, and Sundays. Live, most of it's all live, amplified, heavy music with drums and you name it, horns and everything else. If not, go visit the place yourself if you don't believe me. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any other public comments on this item?
No other hands are raised right now.
Sorry. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close our public hearing and move it back to the commission for questions. This time, starting from my left, let's have Commissioner Lamb-Julian.
What is the time for live music for Antlers and the other establishments?
Well, most of the amplified music is all inside, so it's usually from opening to closing of their business. But the outside, I know, I want to say Uptown, they had an acoustic person. We let them go till, I think, we might have let them go till 6:30 or 7. East Bay Coffee, I would have to go back and look and see what we did, but it wasn't past, I don't think it was past 7 or 8 o'clock at night, especially on Sunday. I think Saturday we let them go a little bit longer, but most of their music was inside as well. They didn't really have outside music for their outdoor dining area. They just mostly had indoor.
I have had residents point out the residents that are close to Antlers. This is when folks are coming in and out, and then spending time in the parking lot, going to their car, what have you, yeah. That the noise is loud and is most definitely beyond 8 p.m. So just my concern is, if we're going to put this condition on this one, then are we being consistent with the other businesses as well?
Remember, the condition, the stuff that I did was all in the outdoor music, not the indoor. The outdoor music has the time frame. So if they all have, well, Antlers doesn't have their music isn't allowed outside. They don't have an outside area to do this. So all their stuff is inside. So that is consistent with all the other businesses, but it's the outdoor. It is a little tighter on the weekends than other businesses that have come in. So I mean, if the commission is wanting to to extend that, then that's be the thing of the commission. But the inside amplified music is the same as everybody else's within the operating hours of their business.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. I'm complete. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Martinez?
No further comments or questions.
Commissioner Vice Chair Menace?
Is there an issue with the Zoom broadcast alone, or just or of a live broadcast as well? Because right now in the chambers, I'm seeing a error message in some non-English script. I'm thinking Chinese, superimposed over any speaker's face.
All right, who's?
So I'm not sure whether that's Mr. Hanover, Mr. Shu dealing with that, or Mr. Snell, but probably should resolve this.
Staff does not touch the audiovisual equipment.
Please be patient while we figure out our technical difficulties.
All right, so now that that's resolved, I think I went through most of my questions and comments earlier, to be honest. So it would be nice, as Commissioner Martinez noted, to have more information about the applicant, but I do note that Mr. Hannum noted that the applicant has existing relationships with current restaurateurs in the city and has positive recommendations from those individuals, so that's a point in their favor. Would this be the point where I should list out the suggested changes to the conditions of approval, or have those been noted already from earlier?
Well, I want to, once you're ready to make a motion, but I do want to answer the question regarding the easement. The easement that they're talking about is a drainage easement that's between it's the city easement that runs along the east side of Uptown Yard, and then in the back area, there's city property or an easement that we allow them to operate, but not to do any improvements on. So this project wouldn't affect that easement. There's no effect. Yeah, the easement's going to be there. The Uptown Yard does have part of their process has their own trash receptacles as part of their project, and there's also that small little trash bin on the back that's used by the other businesses. The businesses are using both the little ones and the big one that's over there by the Chinese restaurant. So just to let you know that. I wanted to answer those two questions before.
All right, so then I think that's all my comments for the moment until we come back to crafting motions and whatnot.
Thank you, Vice Chair Menace. Commissioner Bender?
I do have a question for staff. Have they submitted for any sort of building permits at this time?
Not yet. Right now, they're not really proposing a lot of tenant improvements at this point. So no, they haven't. Or if I take that back, you're not sure. I'm not sure. To be honest, I should mention I'm not sure. But at this point, we haven't seen anything that, at least staff hasn't reviewed anything that they've submitted at this point. But they could have submitted for tenant. There wouldn't be a lot of tenant improvements. A lot of the stuff that's already existing in the back part kind of has like a small little kitchen back there. And so unless they were doing some minor modifications, we haven't seen those yet. Okay. So I'm not sure.
And for Commissioner Julian, I just wanted to make a comment. You raised the issue about the building in its historical condition. What Planner Hannum said is true, that historical classification really does relate to the exterior. The interior actually has been heavily remodeled over time. And in fact, the only things that are still original, and I read the actual report when it was submitted to the Department of the Interior for its historic status. Not with this application, but in the past. And the only things that are still original are basically the marble floors, which haven't been treated very well. And there were a few wall sconces. Otherwise, all what would be contribute further to the historical qualities of the building, that's been hauled away and it's no longer there.
Thank you. And Commissioner Uch.
I'd like to say, I'd like to echo Chair Sandoval's point on 40 hours, at least for, on the terms of conditions page, was it 31, right? Of number 31, yeah. At least on the acoustic music, at least for, I would say Saturday, 5 p.m. is quite early to close up and would be open for it to at least have the hours of the acoustic music to go be at the same time as on the weekdays, though on Sundays I do understand that I'm fine with it being at closing up at 5. That's all my comments.
I have no further questions. Yeah, just before we any other questions or comments? Yes, Vice Chair Mass.
Yeah, just to follow up on Commissioner Bender's comment. So does that mean like the exterior walls of the building are also new as compared to the flooring?
No.
Okay, so you're just talking about the interior.
I was talking about the interior.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Only the interior.
Sounds good. Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. Along the lines with Commissioner Uch, I like the kind of sentiment about on 31 of 33, line item 31. It does seem to make sense that we should consider allowing the acoustics to be extended till 8 p.m. on Saturdays and then altering the language for 5 p.m. on Sundays. I think I could be in support of that, and I think that's a good idea. But unless there's any other recommendations, I think those are really good ideas to give them an opportunity to be successful at this, right? So that would be a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other final comments or questions? No? All right, let's see if we can crack a motion out of this. Would anyone like to give it a shot?
Sure. I'll be happy to make a motion if the chair doesn't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
So I'll move that we approve the Planning Commission Resolution 25-06 with attached exhibits. So the conditions of approval and the conditional use permit for on-site alcohol sales and for outdoor dining with the following modifications to the conditions of approval. Condition number 2, change to have the statement of operations dated 02/19/2025. Condition number 7 to be struck. Condition number 11 to be modified to read shall be Monday through Sunday, and the last letter I to be struck. Let's see. Were we keeping condition number 15 or condition number 4?
I think we're removing 15.
We were removing 15.
Okay, so striking condition 15. And for condition number 25, adding a sentence to the end of the condition noting that the requirement to comply with applicable registry requirements, basically for the building itself being on the Department of the Interior's registry. I'm not sure of the exact language for that. I'll leave it to staff to provide the proper wording there.
We can do that.
And then for condition number 31, modifying it to read at the end by 8 p.m. during the weekdays and Saturday and 5 p.m. on Sunday. Period.
What I'd like, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, what I'd like to do is change that condition, and we'll be acoustic, and we'll end by 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 5 p.m. on Sunday, and that's how I would like to modify that condition, if that's appropriate.
That works.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess that's my full suggested motion with amendments.
Vice Chair, through the chair,
Yes.
if that's okay. But I guess on item number 20, that we included language that we discussed with city staff about addressing the CUP each year for the first 5 years. That would come directly to Planning Commission for our review.
Okay, that seems to me like it might be a worthwhile one to have be a separate condition, actually, because condition number 20 seems to be talking about revocation. It says
Okay.
you can revoke, if necessary, it can modify or revoke after a public hearing. And it sounds like the condition that you want is more a check back condition.
Okay.
So I think that would be condition number 32, basically.
Yeah, so we can add condition number 32, and condition 32 would basically state that the Diosa restaurant, or the conditional use permit shall be reviewed on a yearly basis for the first 5 years.
Reviewed by the planning commission.
Reviewed by the planning commission for the first 5 years.
I'm willing to accept that as a friendly amendment.
Thank you for your help with that.
Is there any other friendly amendments, or does that look good to staff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And what we'll do is we'll watch the video and make sure we'll get the wording correct.
perfect, thank you. Do we have a second?
I can second that.
With a second by Commissioner Martinez, can we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Uch,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb-Julian,
Yes.
Commissioner Bender,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Menes,
Yes.
Chair Sandoval.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, moving on to our next item. We do not have any old business, but we do have new business. Item J, discussion of the redevelopment of 1880 Shopping Center. Yes.
Chair, a suggestion. Before you move on, you should probably mention the appeals process.
Sure. Okay. This one, right?
Yeah, basically the any person bit.
Yeah, thank you. If you choose to challenge the decision of the commission regarding a project, in court, you may limit it to raising only those issues all of this, correct?
The 2 paragraphs, so starting with any person and going down from there.
Thank you. Any person may appeal an action of the planning commission or the planning manager by filing an appeal with the city clerk in writing within 10 days of such action. Following a public hearing, the city council may act to confirm, modify, or reverse the action of the planning commission, and the planning commission may act to confirm, modify, or reverse action of the planning manager. Cost to appeal a decision is $500 with a minimum of $2,500 deposit fee. Note, if you challenge a decision of the commission regarding a project in court, you may limit it to raising only those issues that you or someone else raised in the public hearing or in writing delivered to the city of Pinole at or prior to the hearing. Thank you, Vice Chair Menes. And moving on to our next item, that would be, I believe, item J, new business, discussion of redevelopment of the 1880 Shopping Center. If we can please get a staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tonight before you, as I get to the staff report here real quick, this one's a short one. To give you some background, of course, as you're well aware, 1880 has been a part of the Pinole shopping area for the last 40, 50 years, the Safeway being the anchor. Currently, our past owners was Hillsborough Property. They were the major owners for a long, long time. They sold the 12.7 acres to Balboa Properties, and they are now the current owners of the property. Of course, the center provided services to the businesses essential to the Terra Hills community as well as the city of Pinole, and because of its proximity, also had a regional component as well. just kind of give you some background on the site, just so that everyone's aware of what the site is. The project is within the APN Way corridor, included within the 3-corridor specific plan. The general plan land use is what we call service sub-area, and the zoning for the project site is commercial mixed use, and it does have a high density overlay as well on the property. The overlay districts require that a minimum of 20% of the site develop at a density of between 20.1 to 35.0 units per acre. There will continue to be a high-density residential overlay zone on this property. The requirement of the overlay can be satisfied by future development in portions of the site not impacted by the proposed project, or the overlay district can be removed by the council at a future date. I don't know if you're aware, but when Pinole Square came in, they removed the overlay for that project based on the fact that at the time the city had a regional needs housing assessment of 297 units. We also had a bonus of up to 400 units, and so the property itself could generate probably between 125 and 130 units. And because we had this buffer in terms of number of sites, by removing the site at that time did not affect we still had more than enough sites to be able to accommodate our regional 297 units. So that's why at part of the Pinole Square project, it got removed. As the council or the commission is aware, the previous property owner submitted a project in December of 2017, and at the regular Planning Commission meeting May 27, 2020, the Planning Commission recommended approval to the City Council for the redevelopment of the project site to rename it Pinole Square, and then the accompanying documents that they prepared. The City Council approved the redevelopment of the AP and Aging Center on June 16, 2020. The previous property owner, they didn't apply for an extension right away, and so what the city did was, because they had the ability to apply for extensions, we kind of threw in the first 2 years and then added a year, because they did have an additional, they could extend it up to additional 3 years. We kind of did it kind of backwards, where we kind of gave them the 2 years, but then we gave them the 1 year on the extension, which ended in June 20th, 2023. Once that date passed, all the entitlements that were approved for all the different uses are no longer existent. So whatever project that they propose would have to come back to the Planning Commission, or depending on the project that the new property owner proposes, could require to come back to the Planning Commission and the City Council for approval. So basically, since the ownership change, there's really been no projects proposed for AP and 80. Currently, the Safeway, CVS store, Bank of America have left the center. There are several smaller commercial tenants remaining, and even a couple of those I think we're hearing that have been moving on. And so basically the city has been trying to work with Balboa to get an idea of what they're doing with the center. We haven't really been successful in getting kind of a game plan of what they're doing. So but we're continuing to reach out, we're continuing to bug them, and so to speak, we're continuing to, because we know that site is an important site. So for the city, and we want to make sure that it's redeveloped in a way that's successful, in a way that the city wants us to see it redeveloped. So for tonight's item, tonight was the idea based off the last meeting was to kind of talk about some of those items, so that then we could bring back then we'd come back to the commission for a formal review and approval of ideas that would then move back to the city council. So tonight was kind of like the workshop orientation of the project and your ideas and that type of stuff, which we would then kind of formalize, make sure we get an idea of what we need to formalize, bring that back to the commission, and then go to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Hannum. Before we begin, I just kind of wanted to remind the commission that, we kind of are doing this in more of like a recommendation to the council. We're still limited as to what we can do. But I think that we can kind of structure this conversation around what the commission could potentially like to see at the site, and potentially any policy recommendations that we would suggest that the council could take. So with that, I'll go to my right, and Commissioner Bender, anything that you would like to discuss about this project?
Well, I do have a question for staff. I was kind of surprised to see how many parcels were on that site. Are they all owned by Balboa right now, including the few existing buildings that are still occupied?
Well, that's yeah. They own, well, Hillsborough Property owned the 12.7 acres. Now, those 12.7 acres. Oh man, I wish I could bring up a map. I don't know how we can do that. I should have put a map up there. Dang it, I apologize. I knew someone told me I should have put up a map. Hey, Dave, I don't know if you could just go to Google Maps and just pull up. Huh? Okay, thank you. But yeah, the 12 point, yeah, or CC maps, yeah.
What I'm talking about, all the parcels that.
Yeah, I mean,
mind-blowing.
the 12.7 make up, there's approximately, I think, 8 parcels on the site. Balboa owns probably 5 of the 8 that make up the 12.7 acres. Okay, so the 12.7 acres is owned by Balboa. I don't know if they've acquired additional, the Pinole Square area, the whole Appian Way area is about 13.4 acres total. That includes all the buildings on the site, everything around the, where the Bobas and the House of Worship is, also the building, the restaurant in the back, where the 2 buildings that were demolished, that was all part of Hillsborough. Yeah, next to the Pizza Hut, all of that area is about 13.7. Hillsborough only owned 12.7 of those acres. So I don't know if Balboa has acquired additional, the whole Appian 80 Center. I do know, I have heard that they have bought, I think, a little bit of it, but and that we can check with the recorder or we can check with with parcels and parcel quests and all that to see if they've kind of. Oh, here we go. Okay, good. We can blow that up. Can you blow that up a little bit, Dave? Thanks. There we go. Stop. Okay, that's good. Okay, yeah. So basically, the parcel, and I can kind of tell you where they're at. I mean, Safeway and CVS are actually on 2 separate parcels, and those parcels extend out into the parking lot. There's additional parcels to the west. To the west, that include those parking lots, because what happens is a lot of those parking lots get put in separate parcels so that if there are businesses, they can get their parking for that particular business. However, in most cases in shopping centers, we require a cross-access agreement so that everybody can park anywhere within the shopping center. It doesn't matter. But when they sell certain properties, certain part of the parking lot goes with it. So the buildings to the right and the buildings to the front of the property, to the front right, those are I think separate parcels. And the building to the left, where Bank of America is, I think there's 1 or 2 separate parcels in there. So like I told, there's probably a total of about 8 or 9 parcels within the building, or within the property. So, and I think Balboa owns, I want to say 7 out of the 9 or 6 out of the 9. And I don't know if they're working on acquiring the rest of the site. That's something they haven't been forthwith on what they're doing at this point. So that's all I have on that one, unless you have additional questions.
I think the one additional question is, when you did the approval for the Pinole Square, I'm assuming at that point that, because there used to be a gas station like at the northwest corner.
Uh-huh.
I assume that they went through all this remediation.
Yeah, I mean, there was a dry cleaner there. You mean the dry cleaner that was there?
There used
Yeah.
to be a gas station in ancient history.
Oh yeah, all that it was part, even before Appian 80, before Pinole Square, we got results back from Department of Hazard, Toxic, the state, just for the state, and yeah, the sites were all cleaned up. There were no. Everything has been cleaned up. The last thing that was cleaned up was the dry cleaner. There was a little stuff there. They cleaned that up. They removed some tanks where they demolished some of those buildings on what would be on the left side of the property or the east side of the property. They removed a lot of things over there. That's why, because there used to be like 2 or 3 buildings with the wagon wheel mechanic shops. Yeah, car wash and an antiques building. Yeah, so they cleaned all that up. And right now there isn't any sites. That site is not listed on any of the hazmat sites that I'm aware of. So,
I personally have always thought that that site was a perfect site for a combination of commercial and residential. In my fantasy world, it would be a it would be more of a Pinole oriented Santana Row, which has a combination of commercial with residential at a fairly high density level, without the pretentiousness of Santana.
Right.
I mean, to me, the whole thing speaks of it. It's a large site. I was sort of startled. I'm still a little concerned about if there's multiple property owners, because that usually can make it much more difficult to develop. Getting people to agree.
Yeah, I think there's only two. There's only two other. There were only I think three or no more. There were no more than four. I mean, the Hillsborough LLC had multiple owners within the LLC, but all of those sold to Balboa. But the building to the west, the building to the would be the northeast. That's not owned by Balboa. And I don't think there's a little building on the northwest side that isn't owned by Balboa, or they're in the process of acquiring. I don't know if that's what they're doing.
Because part of the bigger question is, I don't know how much demand there is really for commercial space. And going forward, I'm not sure that there is a lot of demand. But who knows?
Right.
I will say I'm becoming more interested in a movement which is really surfacing in England, where they, instead of demolishing buildings, they want to save them because it reduces the environmental impact. Just speaking personally, I don't think these buildings qualify for that, to be in all honesty.
Yeah.
But that is a movement I'm kind of very interested in, what's taking place in England, where they are looking at that, and developers actually looking at that as well.
Yeah.
But to me, the site has always begged to be a combination of residential, commercial, and at a fairly high density.
Yeah.
When I say high density, I'm not talking about 20-story buildings or anything like that, but something beyond single-family homes,
Right.
frankly. And it would be nice if it were more of a community-oriented, instead of looking, when I say community-oriented, it has some public spaces, as opposed to being just another version of a strip mall. And to a certain extent, I think this Pinole Square was a nicer, updated version, but it was still sort of a strip mall.
Yeah, I mean, it had additional sitting areas. It had 3 or 4 different sitting areas, and it did have a like an area for like kids. I mean, not like a playground or anything, but just a more open area with little things that kids could do. But that's all gone away now at this point.
Yeah. Because I do think that would be key to differentiating it from the existing commercial spaces here in town, which you go to them and they just literally are just strip malls.
Yeah.
There's nothing that makes you stay there. I mean, Pete's comes closest to what I'm kind of talking about in a sense. There's an outdoor area there that's sort of protected. But I would like to see if our development had something that at least made a gesture towards community. And that's my thoughts. But I am concerned about commercial. I don't really see a big market for that. But I'm not going to pretend to be a commercial real estate broker or have real knowledge of that market. Those are my thoughts.
Sure. Yes, Commissioner Martinez.
Thank you, Chair. I guess we've got to know what the past was to know what was on the table before. So, Dave, is it possible that you and Justin have anything, the renderings for what Pinole Square was? And I say that with the context of, please understand, when they talk about Pinole Square, for everybody's benefit. The city had already approved, and I'm not sure if you were on the commission back then, Commissioner Bender, but it was similar to the design that it has now with the Safeway and another one. It had a common area for seating for the kids and tables and some play areas. And it also included, at the time, the city had approved Safeway to have a whole Safeway gas station. So there were a lot of appealing things at the time when the city went through this whole process to get it approved for a really nice redo of the center. So it's important to understand what was approved, and similar to Commissioner Bender's point, is that while that was a good idea at the time, some things have changed, right? Our city is now saying we're not going to approve any more gas stations. So with that said, we need to rethink if we're not going to have any gas stations, can we, as the commission, also encourage the new owner to proceed with maybe some electric charging stations, right? We've got to start thinking of these things on how we work with them to say, but because of these new requirements, we need to ensure that we walk you through what our needs are going to be. This is what we had approved for the previous version, but can we redo this looking at it with a more forward-thinking vision of what it could be? Because I think that's what we were talking about. So I guess, staff, is it possible to pull up any of those renderings from the Pinole Square so everybody could see what the last iteration looked like by chance?
I'm looking at it right now.
Thank you, Chair.
And if I could comment on Commissioner Martinez's comment, I think you did raise a good point. At that time, having Safeway there, that was sort of the driver, the major driver of that project. Right now, it's open-ended. That in itself is a challenge.
Vice Chair Menace, you had something that you wanted to add as well?
Right. So following up on Commissioner Martinez's point about the past, if I'm recalling correctly, the initial designs for the Pinole Square project called for housing in addition, basically going on top of the Safeway project, like I want to say some 200 odd units. And the consultant that we had for planning at the time objected strongly to having housing on that side due to the impact of basically freeway brake dust and so on and so forth. And when it was referred to the council at the time actively objected to having any housing on that side. That's why housing was removed. That was one of the few council meetings I wasn't able to make it to in the last.
Well, what actually, how that all kind of went down was the developer at the time of when the general plan was established back in 2010, the developer at that time thought it was a good idea to have that overlay put on the site, because that's when the overlay was put, the high density overlay. However, when they came back 7 years later and wanted to redo the project, they then no longer wanted that residential overlay. And so then the commission and the council decided that based on the RENA numbers, that they could eliminate the housing. This was at the public workshop that they had back in 2000. I think it was 2018 somewhere. 2000. I think it was 2018. And so then that followed through the entitlement process in 2020. So the resident, that's just for the residential component. The gas station they've always wanted the gas station, and now there's a moratorium on gas stations. We also caveated that, just for the commission's knowledge, we caveated the gas station that basically in the corridors that no gas station would be allowed unless it was attached to a business that was larger than 50,000 square feet or 60,000 square feet. So you just couldn't put an X on there or a shell there. It had to be connected like a Costco or a Safeway or some other type of business that had gas. But since the entitlements have all been, now that the entitlements are all gone, none of that now is on the table. Everything now would be a new use. Just to kind of give you some more clarification on that.
Okay, Chair, if I may. So Planning Manager Hannum, on that residential overlay, is that something that is still there because of the way the OMU or the CMU and all those different are different requirements for these developments? Could the residential overlay be reactivated to be added?
It was never
this parcel.
It was never deactivated.
Oh, good.
The zoning is still the zoning is still there. The zoning is still there for the residential, the high density residential overlay. The commission and the council would then have to, if a new project were to come in, we would have to make a ruling. But if they didn't propose any residential units on the project, the planning commission and the council would then have to adopt a finding saying that we're not requiring any residential development because of finding A, B, C, D, whatever those findings are. So,
Okay.
But the overlay district is still on the parcel. That was not removed.
Okay, thank you, and for the clarification on that. And so, I guess, in a perfect world, all things being equal, and as I alluded to earlier, business development is what I've done for companies for many, many years. Commissioner Bender, I think you're on target with saying something like at Santana Row type of a development could be a really good fit for Pinole. Let's take a step back and look at something like the city of Concord, what they've done with Veranda, which is right off the 680 corridor, and I think Concord Avenue right in there. Okay, Diamond Boulevard. They've got a City Sports, they've got a Yard House, they've got a BJ's. They added a whole number of really nice restaurants, and it's got a good look and feel. The only component they missed was housing. And where this particular parcel sits, when you think about the easy access to get onto the 80 corridor, that's a plus. For any business like Yard House or otherwise, BJ's, when you look at our numbers of the amount of income that resides in Pinole that's leaving to go to Berkeley, to Marin, to Concord, to spend their dollars in restaurants, we're losing a lot of that revenue today. And we, as a city, have the numbers. If you go back, there was a report back in 2017 or 2019 regarding the finances in our city and which businesses would fit well in our community. Yard House was identified as being one of the best ones for us. And with that, it said conservatively it could add a number, I think, and please don't quote me on this because it's been a long time since I read the report, folks, but I think it could add a number in sales tax revenue of about $1 million to $2.5 million in revenue to our city, because again, it's services. What I always try to remind everybody of is that we've always been a little bit, in my humble opinion, top heavy on the grocery stores, remembering that when we're going to Trader Joe's, Safeway, you insert whatever name you want, but oftentimes I'm spending $170, $200, and I look at the tax on it. All of that was food, so there's only $3 in tax, $5 in tax. We need to be thoughtful in how we plan our city out and say maybe we should start making that shift over to a service economy and bringing in big box restaurants. And why that's appealing is we don't have that on the 80 corridor. There is no BJ's, there is no Yard House, there are no really big places for the Kaisers of the world to have their Christmas parties, the Chevrons of the world, all of the refineries, they're taking that business elsewhere. So those would be kind of some of the comments that I'd like to just put out there to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. And coming back to Commissioner Utch, your thoughts?
One of my thoughts is I do agree with Commissioner Bender's point of how this is a great opportunity site for it to be a mixed-use development. I think that's what's really important, especially for, I would say, broadly of development in pretty recent American development ever since the 60s, where we decided maybe we should just sprawl out and separate everything, and people will just, go from one building to another, and that's it. And I think this could be a great opportunity, like what Commissioner Bender was saying, to having some sort of Santana Row, or basically having a mixed-use, developmental space, which fundamentally is just kind of like what human development has been historically. It's just, you don't need a super high-density, 20-story cyberpunk tower to reach densities for housing. You just need to be able, like, what you could do, I mean, or not even do, like, you could just look at other cities globally of having other kind of development. Yeah, something like that. But, I mean, there's a reason why when people, like what Commissioner, what Commissioner Martinez was saying was people go to, say, Berkeley, right, to go out, spend their money, which, I don't go to Berkeley, but I certainly go out to other places in the Bay Area, like San Francisco, to go spend my money elsewhere. It's because I'm going to be honest, who really wants to go to a strip mall? Right? Like, oh, yeah, I go to, Target to go drink at Starbucks at a standard corporate coffee shop. Like, seriously, right? That's not really an interesting destination. While going to San Francisco, yeah, I might pay $15 for a coffee, but at least where I'm going to is an interesting place. I can easily get there. It's not just what kind of business is, it's also a multitude of factors how you get there, right? I don't need to be reliant on the automobile to get the places when I go out, even in Berkeley, right? I go there, I can have my coffee or whatever, or spend my money, but I can easily walk to other places or take the bus or even bar. Like, I have options to do other things besides the uses. In this case, I'm talking about on a macro scale that this place could be a destination where people can do other activities, right? Whether you live locally, right? You're a few blocks away, or you live right above, a local convenience store. It doesn't even have to be super something to drive. Again, I think the qualities of this place should be of good mixed-use development that, humanity has done for centuries. Go to my professor at San Francisco State, Jason Henderson, doesn't, he likes talking about Paris a lot, which can be very annoying, but he does have a good point how Paris achieves in a very small land area. Fun fact, Paris is the size of San Francisco, literally, and yet has a population of over, 1.7 million? When you go there and look at it, it's not like what people think of, like, oh, it's like cyberpunk, hell, like people living on top of each other and like a super cramp. It's not. It's actually a very nice little space. And it's all done with majority of the buildings being 6 stories tall and mixed use, right? Like, now, I'm not saying Pinole to be like Paris, but I'm certainly saying that, having development like that where this could be an opportunity to make Pinole more walkable, which, I'm not sure it might be controversial, but I want Pinole to be more walkable. I want to have an opportunity for not only for everyone to have the option to be able to choose where they want to go, right? Like, I want to be able to go out more in this city with my friends or people where, who don't live here, maybe live in San Francisco, you go to universities with. I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to invite them here because what destination is, wait a second, I also have a strip mall back home, and I also have a giant big box store at home, and I can't even get there easily, right? So fundamentally, my key point is making a destination, and making it a place where people, want to be, not even just want to be, because we brought up the point of the veranda. Having been there, it is a very interesting spot to be in, but this is the most important thing to mention. It is horrendous to even get there and find a parking spot. Like, how am I supposed to, okay, even if I find a parking spot, I have to spend 10 minutes walking across a parking lot where multiple times I have to be on my feet to worry, to, not have to be cautious of not getting hit by a car, right? The veranda is nice once you get there, but the problem is fundamentally, what if you don't have a car, right? Yeah, there's a bus there, but for most people, even if you get there, you have to walk 20 minutes to get there. I've seen it. I've seen the map, and been there. Yeah, it's great. if you have a car, but it's not great for everyone else. And I'm not even saying like no one should ever be able to drive. What I'm saying is like there should be a greater emphasis on multimodality, not monomodality. Because I think I would say in most people in America want to have an opportunity to take other forms of transportation and go to places that aren't just a strip mall. I mean, when people go to other countries like Europe, people are like, whoa, this is amazing, right? Or people go to Disneyland, you take basically public transit and you spend hundreds of dollars, let's say Anaheim, California, and the first thing you see is, well, Main Street America. And people walk there, right? You don't drive your car into Main Street America and find parking. I mean, yeah, you go to a parking garage, but, you know, we had spaces like that. We used to build it, but now most of the time it's like you have to spend hundreds of dollars of either going to amusement park, to places like that, or you pay more than half of your rent or half of your income to enjoy walkable spaces. So I think this space could be a jumping point for Pinole to at least, you know, have an opportunity to develop into a walkable city, which right now it isn't. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Lamb-Julian.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Uch. I do want to go ahead and highlight, I do agree with Commissioner Bender that mixed use is the way to go. I would like to also add possibly an event space as of right now for folks to have meetings, function spaces, the options, there's not that many options. Even to consider almost like a co-op for a micro office to where you can just rent the space and then maybe for a couple hours to have a meeting, or you can have a shared workspace similar to Copiz in Richmond, to where it is a multi-use function space to where you can have events there. Folks can rent it out. You can have a small little office if you want to, a little cubicle, if you will. But something similar to that, I think, would be great, even to lean into what Kitchen 812 has. So they do have a small business incubator, and I'm just thinking if we took it a step further, so in addition to this, the food businesses, that we can even have pop-ups and have a space where they can just kind of test it out like a food hall or an open hall, to where it is a function space therein that can be converted to be used for multiple events. Looking at right now the landscape of, you can go to Richmond to have a meeting, but if a small coffee shop to have a small gathering of, I don't know, 5 to 10 people, you're going to have to go somewhere else. I want to caution against, again, not commercial real estate person, but just the shift of moving away from big box stores, knowing what's going to be happening with tariffs and that sort of thing, of just how can we support small local businesses, even using it as, in partnership with the schools maybe, to kind of build up what they don't have, just in case, multi-purpose rooms. And another extension of the senior center that I know that we have space there, but just thinking a little out of the box of what else can we do to support small businesses around us is what I'd like to, and housing, because, it's a thing. I'm complete. Thanks.
Commissioner Martinez, any additional thoughts you'd like to add?
So, Commissioner Uch, thank you so much for your comments. You're spot on. You're bang on with, we need services in this city that we can all use and enjoy. Commissioner Lamb-Julian, well said, because we do need this, right? And so if we can somehow work with the developer to say, we're living in this community, we know what our community needs, because we're missing all these things. Why not use this as an opportunity and a jumping point to take kind of that design that was proposed and really tweak it to add the housing element and to add some of these businesses or offices that would be a benefit to what we need. One of the other parts that I've really tried to highlight in our discussions, if you see the way the buildings are there, and you look at the 80 corridor, that would be where the green area is, that's Highway 80, those white lines underneath it. That's a huge opportunity. And the reason that I say that is if it's kind of on the left side where they have those trees in that area, that's the part on that parcel that has those multi-million-dollar views that are just, to me, I can't believe the developers missed it, the last iteration and this iteration that we're looking at. Because if we had housing, even if it's 5 or 6 stories, and all those places looked out toward the beautiful water views, anybody would be willing to live there because it's just so amazing. So with that said, I really love the ideas that you presented, team. I think they're great ideas. I would just ask them to go a little bit further, whatever the developer does. If we can get some housing in there, love that idea, but also make sure that it takes advantage of those water views, because those views are there. You can't take them away. They will always be there. But if we can use that, and people have that feeling that when they come to Pinole, Pinole's that one city that really has beautiful views of the water that is being missed today. So that would be about all that I could add. Thank you.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Menace.
Thank you. So I like a lot of the points that my fellow commissioners have made so far. I guess I have a few sort of points of counter concern, I guess. First, to what extent is all of the things that we're discussing here going to have an impact on what the owner of the site ultimately chooses to do? Because I don't think we can compel them. The city doesn't have anything like a vacancy tax or anything like that. They could just leave the land empty if they wanted, right?
At this point, yes, but I think we're working on a vacant parcel tax. I think that's something that we're looking at. There's no official at this point, this time.
Okay, so let's say that Balboa decides, yes, we do want to do a project on this site. Would they need to take anything of what we say here into consideration?
No, they to put it bluntly, they don't. However, I mean, I think these are things that you'll be looking for when a proposal, if and when a proposal comes to you, and these are items that come to you and go from there. You know, these are items that you'll be able to talk to them, and if the council agrees to maybe some policy changes of what happens on this property, then it could affect what they turn in as part of what they propose. Just to kind of give you an idea in terms of square footage, where the Safeway is, that's a 65,000 square foot Safeway. The junior tenant, which is right next door, is like about a 23,000 square foot space. And then the rest of it, the total, I think, was 105,000 total. So I think the strip was only like about 20,000 as well, square feet, just in a strip model. And of course, you had the gas station. They added an additional pad in the front, as well as the drive-through pad, or the other pad. So it had room for some buildings. So I think the total square footage of the property for buildings was right around 105 to 115,000 square feet. With the Safeway, of course, dominating that square footage. But yeah, I mean, but if there are policy issues that you want to make, and maybe it's in terms of the zoning, maybe it's in terms of that, then that's something that they would have to take a look at as part of their submittal process.
Okay, and then the second thing is I want to loop back again to basically the council's objection to prior council. Like this was in 2020 when this decision was ultimately made. Basically, it got appealed from the Planning Commission to the council, and the council said, no, we don't want housing on this site in particular. because of issues that we have with the potential impact of traffic and so on going by the site. And I know there are ways we can mitigate that. We did that for the 179 unit over by Roble, like requiring the windows be closed, put signage on the windows
Right.
with regards to, the dangers of vehicular pollution and whatnot. It's just I-80 is a much bigger corridor and a much greater risk. Right. And I know there's been significant turnover on the council in terms of personnel since that time, but I think it is still potentially a risk to keep in mind that past commissions did say, hey, we think there should be housing here, and past councils did say, no, actually, we don't think that's a good idea. So I think that's something we need to account for in our discussions and our planning, maybe getting a sense of where the council's position is on this, to the extent that we can with the limitations of the Brown Act, of course. Because I don't want us to go through a whole plan and be like, okay, we want a few hundred units of housing here and so on and so forth. And then it gets appealed to council again, and council says, no, actually, we don't want it there again for the same reasons we didn't want it there last time.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the entitlement, that was, what you're talking about more, Raphael, was the workshops. The workshops is where they really determined that the council didn't want, and the developer didn't want any residential on the site. It was a commercial site. It's been a commercial site, which kind of changed their direction from in 2010, when they thought that it might be, a mixed-use site. It is commercial mixed-use site. It is within the APNWA corridor as a CMU site. And of course it has a high density overlay with that. So it's got a little additional residential component. Now, yeah, the council can make findings. In most cases, when you recommend a project, the council, let's say that, you recommend denial based on, they don't have any housing on the project, they don't have the density you want, yeah, the council can override based on finding, they'd have to make findings of why they're overriding your decision, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's just the council, that's just part of the legislative body. But I think it's just, what you guys are trying to do is just send a message to the council and say, hey, look, this is what we're kind of looking at for this property. And, these are we want to make sure that the zoning is maintained in terms of the high density overlay district when projects are being proposed. We want to make sure that, that the uses are, compatible with what, is consistent with the current trends and markets. I think that's kind of where we want to go and how we want to do it. Or if there's something that you want to, maybe a general plan designation difference or a specific, actually this isn't a specific plan. So maybe you want to change this as part of a specific plan amendment. So, there's a lot of different things that you can recommend to the council for this site when they propose those things. But if you do it from a regulatory standpoint, which we already have the documents in place, they would have to conform the project to what you're proposing in terms of the regulations and the policies and the strategies that you have set forth in the documents you have right now. So that's kind of how, if you want to word it that way type thing. You do have some teeth in it right now. In terms of there's no other place in the town or in the CMU zone districts in any of the three corridors that has a high density overlay on it, except for this parcel. So somebody saw something on this parcel, 15 years ago. Wow. 15 years ago, that thought that there could be some mixed use on this property. So it's just a matter of making sure that your policy documents and your zoning codes and your specific plans are really calling out for those types of, and when those projects come forward, that you make sure that those policies and goals are implemented as part of the process.
Yeah, I guess the one big thing I want to make sure if we do have residential on that site is that it has mitigations to deal with pollution, because there's going to be pollution from I-80. Even if it converts all over to electric tomorrow, there's still going to be brake pollution and tire wall pollution fragments from that stuff. So that's always going to be a massive impact there. And there's also, the whole pathway through into Terra Hills. I forget the exact name of that road, but Terra Hills, yeah. The eponymous road, as it were. Yeah. Terra Hills Drives, I can see it right there. But but yeah, basically, my big concern about residential there, I know the city does need more residential. It's why I like, frankly, the Kmart project, if that ever happens, sort of the 300 units basically being right next to the Best Buy site, having a link to the whole shopping area, having parking shared with it, sort of revitalizing that area. I know there was a substantial amount of opposition in the community to that project in particular because it was a conversion of a former commercial space into a residential one. But I still think if that project ever actually happens, it'll revitalize a blighted building and re-energize that whole commercial area. I think something like that could be beneficial here, but I think that the pollution risks are substantially higher here just because the site is where it is. Part of, being right next to I-80. Sure, you get the views, but you also get the pollution. And I think we need to make sure that we account for that, not just because of the city's sustainability element, but also as a health and safety concern.
Commissioner Lamb Julian?
If I could just also bring up, I've had many conversations with the patrons that used to go to that Safeway there. It is an older population. They have been going to that store for some time, and just, it is harder for them to have to go and navigate that jungle of a parking lot at the other Safeway. So now they're going to have to go to possibly Sprouts, which, understanding the price point for Sprouts is going to be different than Safeway. And that was a main concern for the seniors on a very fixed income of just what else can we have there. I understand that, we have Sprouts, we have Trader Joe's, but just thinking on this side of town or on that side of town, possibly Los Montanos or even like an H Mart, but just something along the lines that would appeal to the community there, just to be mindful of the community that lives around there, that shops there regularly, the challenges, and then speaking to the folks that, the Safeway employees, of just, checking in with them of just who actually goes there. And it is regularly the same people that go every couple of days. Knowing that they are on a very, very fixed income. So just being mindful of that part of the population when we're thinking of this as well. Because I think the only other grocery kind of mart is the Carniceria right out there off of like Appian.
Lucky's.
Oh.
Food Max, Target, they're all.
Yeah. They would just say that they don't like going over there because it's hard for them to navigate. There's too many people, but just, and the price point too. Thanks.
Vice Chair Menace?
Yeah, so I wanted to actually follow up on Commissioner Lamb Julian's comments and link them into Commissioner Uja's comments about walkability, actually. One concern that I have heard online and social media and also in talking to people in that area as well is just how it was easier, physically speaking, to get from Tara Hills to Safeway, and that going anywhere else, even Sprouts or the Mexican market down at the intersection of Appian and San Pablo, or the Trader Joe's all the way over on Pinole Valley Road. Any of those, you have to go a lot farther. Even the Lucky's over on the other side of the freeway, you still have to cross the freeway. So in terms of walkability, even though it was a strip mall, it was still something closer, I think, to what Commissioner Uch wants as being sort of a neighborhood walking destination, not just a car destination. So I think that ties into what sort of future tenants we would want for the site. We would want like a major, relatively low-cost grocery store or something similar to act as a walking nexus for the neighborhood, because that's been indicated as a neighborhood desire, sort of just linking up all those points.
Thank you, Vice Chair Menace. Kind of taking into consideration all the different comments that we've heard tonight, I kind of do agree with a lot of the sentiments on the commission that we've heard. I really would love to see a residential mixed-use housing there. I think that it's an excellent opportunity to try to get like our RENA numbers up to kind of make sure that we're staying as a pro-housing designation type city. I do understand the concerns regarding pollution, and I feel that, that could be worked with a potential developer and that could be mitigated. As for others' concerns as to like, and comments as to like what we could see in that space, I personally would be okay with like another grocery store, but as long as it's kind of like a unique type of grocery store, kind of like, as Commissioner Lamb Julian mentioned in H Mart, something that's kind of, we have, people have kind of thrown around the idea of something like Whole Foods, but then kind of like with Whole Foods, we kind of have Trader Joe's and Sprouts that I feel that cover that niche of the market. But I would kind of would want to see something a little bit more unique, like in an H Mart or like Las Montañas. Something that I saw opened really recently in Daly City, Galgachi. It was another Korean grocery store, and there's another one, kind of another Asian grocery store, Tokyo Central, I believe, that's opening up in Bay Street. So I definitely think that there would be a market for that in Pinole. Kind of thinking about what we would want to, looking kind of like what is the market around us. Like, we're one of the most demographically diverse cities in like the entire state, and that's something that we could take advantage of as a city. And as we're doing that, we can kind of like think of like, oh, we want something that's unique. We want something that's like visually appealing, something that's walkable, something that like people will think with like, oh, hey, you want to go to that one place in Pinole that has all those shopping centers and restaurants, stuff like a Yard House, something that could, make sure that we're also bringing in tax revenue through a potential development. I think that would be great. And I think that we could really, really like use something that would really invigorate Pinole in a modern way. And I don't necessarily think that means a strip mall. I think we have enough of that in Pinole kind of as it is, in my opinion. But I think that we can kind of move something towards something walkable, something that has green spaces for the community, something that has like third spaces or a potentially office or community space as well. And something new and kind of unique that's kind of vibrant to bring to the city. And it can be kind of something, it doesn't necessarily, when I think that we think about housing, it doesn't necessarily need to be like a skyscraper. We can have something that's, 5 to 7 stories, more or less, and it's kind of very high density, potentially affordable units as well. That, I think would very much fit within the aesthetic of Pinole. And it's just such a large area that I think that we as a city should try to take advantage of working with developers as to like what can we bring that's like new, exciting, vibrant, but also at the same time modern for our city's needs. And I think that's just kind of some of the things that we can kind of like look at what other cities have kind of done, what kind of has worked for those cities. Like a great example, the Veranda in Concord, lovely shopping mall. It's a strip mall at the end of the day, but absolutely nightmare to find parking there. You're going to be looking at potentially parking halfway across or even completely across that shopping center to go to your restaurant, store, or what it may or movie theater. Whatever kind of you're there to go to. And then I think that it's just something that we're all coming together and putting all of these pieces together, and that we're trying to work with the developer, and like we're trying to give the developer the blueprint of what our city kind of wants. And I think that this is an excellent kind of starting point as to what we kind of want to see and what we want and what we need. And, we want to work with developers because we want to bring new and exciting things to Pinole. Commissioner Lam Julian.
So what comes to mind is, do you remember what happened to Hilltop Mall? I mean, it was the normal mall, and then it was abandoned, and then they were going to get, I guess, redeveloped. But just what they had proposed to the community was just repurpose those buildings to where they would have like a community function space, and they would have the open green space, and they would have brick and mortar stores as well. I'm not an architect, but just, I don't know, 12.3 acres. We could have like a little possible mini version of that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, sure, so you can have anything you want.
No, just
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, depending on the the resurfacing, I mean, the current buildings right now equal probably about 65,000 square feet. The Safeway right now is about 35,000, and the CVS right now is about 15 to 20,000. So that building, if they were to repurpose that into something else, I mean, they could. That would still leave. Hey, Dave, can you go back to the next slide?
because weren't they going to combine the
so-
Safeway with the CVS?
Well, I mean, there's been rumor. There's been a lot of things running around, but we don't really have a proposal. There's been talk about they're going to still leave the building, but be resurfaced, refurbished, redo. Combined into one, because I know there's a separation between the two buildings. But just to kind of give you an idea how big that is on the site. So if they left the building where it is, there'd still be room. There would still be room on the site for additional residential, because you're taking out the gas station, you're taking out the pad, so there would be room for different other types of businesses that would be there. Now remember, you've got the single family residences right on that west side, and this Terra Hills project is taller than that, so they're above the Terra Hills project or the Safeway, the 1880 is above the residential component. The residential is directly to the west of the project area, so we'd have to be cognizant of that. However, I mean, there is room there to do some of those things and create that oasis that you guys are looking at, or that destination, and that's a trend. I mean, that's been more of a trend probably over the last 5 to 10 years, is that these shopping centers, these old shopping centers that are being repurposed, are looking at repurposing them to multiple uses, mixed uses, community oriented, where it is a destinations type point where you go to that's where, hey, you go to this place to do this, and you can do all these other things there. So I think that's important. I think that's what Pinole Square tried to do. Was try to create that little. I mean, it wasn't. It didn't necessarily, meet all the components, but in terms of the design, the landscaping, some of the outdoor amenities that they had, they were trying to create that destination point. And I think hopefully Balboa will try to do the same thing in acquiring the properties. Or if they're just going to continue with their 12.7 and work with the other property owners. Because I think they own the buildings. They don't own the building on the corner. I know that, and I don't think they own the building just to the east of that or to the west of that. So I think some of that property is not owned by Balboa, at least at this point. So they own pretty much the blacktop is what they own, most likely. And there's a little building in the front that I think they don't own. But so just kind of give you an idea.
Because I was even thinking of, in San Jose, there's Santana Row, but then they also, to just revitalize downtown San Jose, they also had the St. James Park or Square or whatever it is. It is just this odd-shaped plot of land with little small micro businesses, and it's also a community space as well, to where then satisfying that it is going to be a destination, knowing folks also want boutique stores, like clothing stores, because you're going to have to go really far to get any sort of clothing besides Target here. But just bringing in smaller businesses, being able to support them so they're not having to rent out or lease out a large brick and mortar, that it would be more accessible to smaller businesses, I think would be a good direction for us to go into, knowing that just what the trends are right now. I'm complete. Go ahead, Commissioner Martinez.
I just have a few comments, and partially in reaction to some comments I've heard here. Sadly, like Commissioner Ruch, I don't shop here in Pinole. I do all my shopping in Berkeley, basically. I go to Andronico's, but that's owned by Safeway. I'll leave it at that. I go to Tokyo Fish Market. I don't do my shopping here. I won't go into why, but it's personal preference. So my dollars are going elsewhere. I even buy gas because it's cheaper in Berkeley, believe it or not. With regards to the Kmart site, I think one of the best things that came out of that project, I love the linkage of using the trellis, the pedestrian linkage to the existing shopping center. That was my favorite part of the project, frankly. I think it was a brilliant move, and it's what I would envision for something like this, that there's this connectivity of the elements in the project. Not to be a downer, but I know of a project recently that was a mixed use down in Sunnyvale, I believe, in that part of the world. It was a development that was going to have commercial at the ground floor, this typical pattern, but they had a major tenant, happened to be Whole Foods, going in, and there was going to be housing above, like 4 floors of housing above. It was a fairly good project in terms of its size. That's what was proposed. Sadly, when they got into negotiations with the lender said, wait a minute, we want the grocery store to be a standalone building, and then the housing is separate, which I thought was unfortunate, but it kind of shows sometimes the power. It's not just public officials, it's not even the architects, it may not even be the developers. The lenders can actually dictate what will happen in the project. The only thing I can understand why they might have wanted that is, as a lender, the last thing you want to do is really own a project, and they probably thought if the thing went into receivership and they ended up taking it over, they thought they could probably sell it off easier as a housing and then a grocery store with related commercial. It was very unfortunate because that concept of overlaying the residential over the commercial, to me, was, in that case, was kind of brilliant. But then we do see other examples along San Pablo Avenue in Berkeley where that ground floor is empty in many of the newer projects, unfortunately. To Commissioner Martinez, your comment about the view to the west. I was amused because I did drive up there today. I haven't been up there in ages. I was slightly amused to see some of the homeowners there that are down below have been masking off your view. One fence is now full of growies, so you no longer really see anything. And then another property, some trees now growing up, purposely lined up. So, as I think Mr. Hannum suggested, that that's something one has to be cautious about when you have properties overlooking someone else's property. You can suddenly have a whole neighborhood suddenly against you. That kind of happened with the CVS a little bit, but not much happened. CVS still happened, but that did show up. But those were just some reaction. Oh, one final. I do agree with Commissioner Menace. There would need to be some environmental safeguards, especially if you are doing housing in this area. Part of that mitigation would be a heavy landscape zone along the freeway. It looks like there's some parcels there that actually was not going to be developed. It was not going to be paved over. As a first step, that would be kind of like what was done with the distribution center over there in San Pablo Avenue, where there was trees lining at the property line. That, or maybe multiple rows of trees, but I think it would need to have a heavy landscape move like that, planting trees. Granted, it's going to take a while for the trees to grow, but I think it would be an appropriate move. And it's not just the pollution, it's the noise. I was at Kaiser recently out here in Pinole Valley, and all you can hear on that site is that damn freeway. It's unpleasant. I'd hate to have lunch there. They have a little lunch area for staff. I wouldn't want to eat lunch there. But I think that is something that would need to be considered.
So I guess Mr. Hanham, Mr. Shu, is it possible to get that, either the 2017 or the 29? I can't remember the name of it. It was something like the drop report, and it talked about all the different, how much revenue, well, the report went into the income levels that are in Pinole by the households. And it was just fascinating how much money is sitting in our city. Just was shocking. And in that drip report or drop-down report, I'll try to get the name of it. I have a copy of it on my desktop, and I can share it with you. But if you can get a copy of that report out to the other commissioners to look at, because in that report, they've already identified the types of businesses that would be a good fit for Pinole. And this is the same report that we should be sharing with Balboa Partners, so Balboa Partners doesn't need to go out and spend more money to create a report that was already done by our city. And it was in that report where they identified Pinole's a perfect fit for something like Yard House, for something like Whole Foods, just because there are a number of people that are leaving to go buy these products and services everywhere else because we don't have them in our own town, the services that people would use. So I think that would be really helpful for everybody to read and understand just exactly what would fit here, because then we can wrap our heads around, okay, if we get one or two of these things that would fit in that spot, but then tweak it to add all the other things that we need them so that we can, because they're going to want something big in there, right? Like a Safeway or something. We can't prevent that, right? Because at the end of the day, it was brought up earlier that we've got to remember that they're going to need to finance this, right? They're going to need to take a business proposal to their banks, and the business proposal's got to say, I've got anchor tenants that are going to pay me X dollars a year to be in this facility. So if I build and spend these millions of dollars to build this thing, I can amortize that over 30 years and show how I can pay this loan back, right? It's just like buying a house. So if I've got these anchor tenants that can fit in here and meet the needs that my banks are going to ask, then I'm willing to listen to the city of Pinole and give them the tweaks, maybe the offices or the micro businesses or what all these other things that we're asking for, green spaces, all of that. So if we can get a copy of the report out to everyone so that we can see these businesses start giving some thought to what would work in our community. And then
when was this report done? I'm sorry.
Either 2017 or 2019.
I think if I can interject briefly here, Commissioner Martinez, I think it was in the summer of 2020, because I recall that at least part of the reporting on it was done over Zoom, like as a city level thing. There were some workshops done on like the economic niche report. I think it was like somewhere between June and August of 2020, but I don't think it was 17 or 19. I think it was later.
Thank you.
And I guess the other thing I want to do at this point is I'd like to suggest that we open up to public comment portion, because I think there are some people in the audience and online who want to comment on this item, and they've been waiting for a bit at this point.
Sure. Is there any other comments or from the commission on this? All right, let's go ahead and move to public comment on this item.
Okay, I don't see, oh, there we go. There's the hand. Caller with a number ending in 5748. Okay, when you're ready, please press star 6 to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, some housekeeping things. Some of the comments that were made from the different commissioners were kind of like were pretty good. Though some of them I couldn't hear half of it, or the viewing audience couldn't hear half of it. And like, I think the commissioner at the far end of the dais there, he should move the mic closer to him or move himself up closer to the mic, because we could only hear roughly half of things he was saying. because of that. So someone needs to audit the audio once in a while to give the viewing public their due, you know, with tuning in to Zoom. And the Zoom is down, Mr. Menace. I couldn't log on to it. I'm just don't know. It's a blank screen with a code 404 on the screen. But anyway, I think like a combination of what every other commissioner had mentioned is good. Going backwards to go forward, you know, what happened in the past council meetings back in the days. It's kind of sad that one council and the politicians in Pinole leaned one way, and then all of a sudden we got a new majority council that leaned the other way. That basically kind of threw a monkey wrench in the works, and we don't want that to happen again. So Raphael made a good comment that, you know, you got to get a read on the city council so they can work with the general public. It's not all about the council and their personal choices and desires and their constituents. You know, you have to serve the public, and half of the public, if not all, on that side of the freeway on Tower Hills is pretty upset, including myself, that used to shop once or twice a week at that Safeway on Tower Hills, because I didn't want to fight that guerrilla warfare parking lot and drive out to Hercules and or give them my tax dollar, whether it's gasoline or food or Starbucks coffee there. And that being said, I just think that it's going to be a long road to hoe because of the way the economy is. And I don't want to sound like Donald Downer right now, but look what happened to the Kmart project. You know, they ran out of financing options or something that had to that stalled the project because it wasn't favorable for them to continue where they're supposed to. And then they should be paying a vacancy tax as well. But anyway, and what happened to the the Hilltop Mall project, it sounded really good on paper, but then something happened there. I don't understand. But they were going to have a nice anchor supermarket, 99 Ranch, that was going to go in there, and they were going to have a new cinema theater there and a lot of different types of restaurants and things that would bring people back to that area with mixed-use housing as well. And then all of a sudden, that fell through the cracks, or some stalemate there. So I don't know what's going on there, but I know probably 99 Ranch pulled out, or people didn't want what was presented or proposed to them, which will face Pinole as well. But my personal thoughts is that it should be like an international marketplace there, because there's a lot of different ethnic people on this I-80 corridor in West Contra Costa, as well as the whole Bay Area. You know, whether they're coming from Sacramento or Berkeley or San Francisco or whatever, they can go to, you know, a good ethnic market like a mini 99 Ranch or a Korean Asian type supermarket, and then they can have lunch or dinner at the neighboring boutique restaurants, as well as maybe some international boutique shops, to keep everything in focus, not just, you know, have it splattered all over the place.
Please wrap up your comment, please.
And anyway, I think the city of Pinole and the politicians dropped the ball when they couldn't talk to Safeway Albertsons to agree, and the new property owners to agree to put EV stations, which should go in that new property as well. But no, they gave them all, forgot the grant to
Thank you for your
EV
comment. Sorry, your time is up.
Lucky parking lot on Fitzgerald Drive, and therefore we could have had an EV Safeway combination gas station there.
Sorry about that. You had been over time. But yes, I think we can definitely take those things into consideration. I think multiple commissioners have kind of mentioned an international type grocery store potentially as a new anchor. I'm kind of thinking about some of the concerns on the council. I think the current council might be more amicable towards housing development or potential redevelopment of the entire parcels. And, also being mindful that, we're very limited as to what we can do. Is kind of more that we're doing our recommendations for the council or for any developers that, might want to be interested in something like this. But kind of shifting the conversation from here into a little bit more of like actionable items, kind of thinking of the planning commission, we could do potentially a resolution to the council or potentially to the developer if that's something that is plausible, kind of listing some of the things that we have discussed. And I think Commissioner Vice Chair Menace had also mentioned very early on potential like policy recommendations, like something like a vacancy fee as like a policy recommendation to council. But kind of also, I'm also kind of thinking of like a two-part kind of resolution that outlines some of the things that we had mentioned as a commission and potential solutions of what we want to see there and potential action items that we recommend the council do. So I think at this point, if we can probably start to compile these together into a motion to potentially drafting a resolution and so we can kind of think here, kind of getting a resolution to staff on some of these items and then have the language come back to us for final approval before we would send it off.
Yes, we can do that. We'll prepare a resolution basically doing some whereases based on some of the comments we made tonight, as well as including some of the policy documents that you had for the redevelopment of the site. And then you guys can pick it apart, see if that's what you want to do.
Vice Chairman, has you had more comments?
Yeah, I was just saying that staff recommendation seems to suggest that, they would be bringing back at another regular meeting sort of a compilation of all the things we'd already discussed tonight. I wasn't sure whether that would be a resolution or not. Does staff recommend that be in the form of a resolution, or is there some other form like a report or something that would be helpful for sort of compiling everything that we've discussed into something that's more actionable at the council level?
Well, what I'll do is, as part of the staff report, I will include the items that we talked about tonight, and then as part of the resolution, we'll outline what will be recommended to the city council as part of the resolution.
Do we need to take a vote, or does there need to be a motion or no?
Yeah, we need a motion. We need a motion by the commission and second to direct staff, but to bring back the item for review and approval.
Thank you.
Can we also add in that that motion to bring the economic report? If you can.
Economic niche report, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to hunt that down because that was done by the city council. So I'll have to find the agenda where it got and get a copy of it. So it'll take us a little research to get that, but I'll get that out to the commission.
Thank you.
Would it be helpful for staff for us to list the things that the commission wanted to discuss in the motion, or just kind of a more generic motion, and then staff will look back from there?
Yeah, I would just want a more generic motion at this point, and
okay.
then we'll bring back a more specific set of stuff for you guys to take a look at and a resolution. So,
does someone want to take a crack at the motion? Go ahead.
I guess I could try doing a generic motion, move that the staff bring back at another regular meeting a recommendation of policies and uses to the city council based on our discussion tonight, and a resolution to more formally adopt the various topics that we discussed. Does that work?
Yeah, pretty much. Regarding the AP and 80 Center.
Regarding the AP and 80 Center, yes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Uch,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb Julian,
Yes.
Commissioner Bender,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Menace,
Yes.
Chair Sandoval. Motion
Yes.
carries 6-0.
All right, and then now moving forward to the city planners commissioners report. Mr. Hannum, do you have a report for us?
Yeah, I've got more of an oral report tonight. Just kind of let the commission know some of the projects that I'm working on right now. We're working on the local hazard mitigation plan to get that approved by the council and to make sure that gets included so that we can then be on the hook getting funds in case we get an emergency disaster. Working on our growth management plan project through CT from the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, which are Measure J monies that we get every year. So we're working on that report to get to them. We're working on, there has been changes to our FRAP map. And for those of you that don't know what a FRAP map is, that is CAL FIRE mapping of very high, and moderate fire severity zones. There have been changes to our map in the positive, at least I think they're in the positive, with less very high within the city. In fact, there's no very high within the city limits, Pinole, which there's a little change as part of that map change. So the council has to approve that. We are looking at scheduling the safety element and the environmental justice element probably in. We're having we're probably going to schedule a public workshop late May. We haven't set a date yet, but it'll probably be like the week after Memorial Day. And then looking at doing a public workshop at either, I don't know, the senior center or the library somewhere, just for people to come out and take a visit. Our consultant will be here virtually, and then of course I'll be involved with that as well. And then hopefully be bringing that back to you from a formal recommendation in July and to the council in August. Or maybe in June. Yeah, it's a meeting in June. No, probably first meeting in July and then to the council in August. So getting those two items wrapped up as well. And then also, objective development designs. I've now moved the document. I just emailed the draft formatted document to the ad hoc committee as well as to Lily. So now we're getting the next step comments in, and so we'll be hopefully getting that back to you guys in a month. Finish all our comments and getting it back. Probably one more last look at the ad hoc committee. And then bring it back to the commission for review and approval or recommendation to approve to the council, as well as the parklet. So we're working on that. We're formatting that document right now, and hopefully get that to you coming up in the summer as well. So summer's going to be kind of busy. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Hannum. Any questions from the commission for Mr. Hannum? Commissioner Martinez.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Hannum, a while back, and I don't know how accurate this was, but sitting above some of the highest parts of Pinole Valley, I'm going to say about a year or two ago, there were 30 acres that were listed for sale to the tune of millions of dollars. And it was on Realtor.com, it was on Zillow, and then it just disappeared. Mm-hmm. And I've given some thought to that, and it's those hills that we know, all of us are well aware are not well maintained. We do see some goats up there every now and again. I guess my question for you, Dave, is that part of Pinole, and is that land that will someday potentially be developed, or is it just open space that's not owned by anyone? Was that just a typo that was listed? Do you have any knowledge of that land?
That was the 4 parcels, right? There were 4 parcels up by Silvercrest up in that area.
Correct.
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
Yeah, we've had a lot of different ideas regarding those properties over the last 4 or 5 years, and you were correct. They were for sale. However, there is I think there's a conservation easement. There's some type of development easement on those properties that needs to have to be dealt with if those properties were to be developed into any type of, any type of single family or multifamily residential. Right now, I think currently there's only like on each of the parcels, there's like one little flat area where they can have one unit. So I don't know if they just didn't get their price for it, or they found out there was a bunch of easements. They're scenic easements is what they are. They're scenic easements. And so whether or not those can be removed, I think there's still a lot of ifs and ands regarding that property. So that's probably why it got taken off the market. But I'm not sure. But those 4 properties we've been dealing with a lot, with those properties a lot over the last 3 or 4 years.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Vice Chair Menace, did you have questions for Mr. Ham?
Oh, just wondering, are we going to be addressing the Planning Commission Academy under this item tonight, or are we going to be continuing that again?
We can do the city planner's report first and then go to commissioner's report.
Yeah, I mean, I can just give my basic report regarding the Planners Academy. It was a great time. A lot of interesting sessions, actually. I think on housing, and because that's what everybody was really. Again, that's the big deal. Couldn't believe the legislative update was pretty much all housing, but it was a great time. Met a lot of good people and had a good time. So I think it was worthwhile for commissioners. I think it was worthwhile. That's all I have on that item, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission for Mr. Hannum? Is there any public comment on this item?
No hands raised right now.
Give it maybe a few seconds if anyone wants to make a public comment on this item. Looking, there's no one. We'll move on to our commissioner's report. Are there any commissioners that would like to share or report on anything? Vice Chair Menace.
Sure. So I guess I should share some of my limited experiences of the Planning Commissioners Academy. This time around, I unfortunately was not able to attend the entirety of it because I had fallen and hit my head and was dealing with some difficulties in that regard. And also my hotel room had gotten canceled by the time I got there. So I needed to drive from Pinole to Santa Rosa and back each day I was attending. So I managed to make it there for the end of Wednesday and a fair chunk of Thursday's stuff, but nowhere near as much as I wanted to be for the entire thing. So my apologies for that. First off, there were a few things that I thought were interesting in the various reports, and I'm going to try and be brief about that. One point that they brought up that doesn't necessarily apply to Pinole right now, it might in the future, is that apparently the builder's remedy only triggers on 20% lower income housing, not just on all housing like I thought it did. So that was interesting, though of course the legislature could change that at any time, as they do. Let's see. Another thing we mentioned was that it was still possible to use pre-2020 subjective standards for conditions of approval, not for findings necessarily, but only if it doesn't reduce density. Otherwise, you trigger objective standard requirements. Let's see. There was a note of one bill, SB 937, that limits fee collection until certificate of occupancy. I think that's going to be significant for the city to consider, so people should be aware of that one. I think it's one that passed. Let's see. Another point that I thought was interesting when they were talking about the basically the CEQA process was that apparently going for the more complicated environmental review could protect the city as well as the developer with regards to lawsuits, which I was surprised. I thought, why not just go for a mitigated negative declaration or something else? And they're like, well, sometimes the city also wants the legal security for that. And then finally, there were two sort of points related to basically interactions with staff. First, just as a point of good general public policy, which I've also been bringing up at council meetings quite often recently. It's a good idea to say, is there anything staff wants to put on the record after public comment? And then the second point, sort of for commissioners, was that staff can tell by the sound of the packet if you've opened the packet before the meeting or not. So that's my report back on what I learned at the Planning Commissioners Academy.
Thank you, Vice Chair Menace. Any other commissioners would like to report out? Commissioner Lamb-Julian.
I just would like to report that going to the commission last year was really just helpful just to be prepared, but be better prepared for going to the commission meetings now, and then having another opportunity to go to the commission meetings or to the academy and sitting in on the more advanced sessions and doing a deep dive on housing and what it looks like in the landscape of legislature was really helpful. And I did actually notice a difference of the makeup of the attendees this year from last year, which made for robust conversations. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you both. Any other commissioners would like to report out? Any public comment on this item? Nope, no public comment. Moving on to our next item, communications. Any commissioners have any communications they would like to share? No communications. In that case, our next meeting will be on, the next Planning Commissioner regular meeting will be on May 12th at 7 p.m. And with that, we will adjourn.